Chapter 908. This bowl of fish soup didn't have any precious herbs, and it wasn't cooked with any special techniques. It was just a simple soup. The soup was clear, and the fish meat could be seen clearly. Several pieces of cut ingredients floated on the surface of the soup, swaying. Nyo-Han-san took a sip, and the fish soup poured into his mouth. The sweet taste made Nyo-Hansen's eyes bulge. He had never thought that there was such a delicacy in this world. As a great ethereal realm expert of the ruined prison, Nyo-Han-san was someone with a high status. He had tasted many delicacies, but he had never tasted something like this that could stir his heart. This palpitation made him understand that from now on, his ideal life had changed again. He no longer had to build a cowshed to sleep. Instead, he had to build a cowshed while drinking fish soup and sleeping. He was a cow with an ideal. Thus, for the fish soup, the pain his body had to endure was a test for him. Bufong sat on a chair with a bowl of steaming fish soup in his hands. He brought his mouth close to it and gently blew on it, dispersing the steam above the fish soup. Then he took a sip. The fish soup was cold and clear, and it had a little sweetness. This sweetness could be brought by the spirit herbs. The clear fish soup allowed the spirit herbs to taste the best, and the fishy smell of the fish meat was also eliminated by the spirit herbs. After drinking the last drop of the soup, Bufong lazily stood up. Not far from him, Nyo-Han-san and the three-eyed wild lion were holding a porcelain bowl, licking the leftover taste of the fish soup. That delicacy made them reluctant to leave. The night breeze blew, rustling the green grass in the heaven and earth farmland. Bufong clasped his hands, walking in the farmland. Nyo-Han-san was worthy of being a cow breed. His speed of plowing the field was really fast. Compared to the three-eyed wild lion, his efficiency was much higher. Strolling in the farmland, Bufong closed his eyes, feeling the flow of spirit energy in this area. Then, he found a place where spirit energy gathered, standing still. This is it. Bufong opened his eyes and took out a red sandalwood box. The box contained the seed of the phoenix blood vermilion fruit. After digging a deep hole in the ground, Bufong planted the seed of the phoenix blood vermilion fruit in it. He felt a little expectant. After watering it with the clear river water, Bufong looked at the spot where the seed of the phoenix blood vermilion fruit was buried and slowly retreated. I wonder if I can grow the phoenix blood vermilion fruit in this heaven and earth farmland, Bufong frowned and muttered. In fact, he wasn't sure if it could survive, so he could only continue planting it with the hope that it could. In the field, where the fruits and vegetables were planted, the cabbages were almost ready to be harvested. The flow of time in the heaven and earth farmland seemed to be different from the outside world. Here, the ingredients matured much faster. This saved him a lot of time and energy. After instructing Nyo-Han-san to continue farming, Bufong left the heaven and earth farmland and returned to the restaurant. Outside the restaurant, the sky had already begun to dim, and the dawn of the eastern sky was so obvious. Bufong looked at the gradually brightening sky and couldn't help but stretch his body, letting out a yawn. After spending a night in the heaven and earth farmland, Bufong didn't feel tired at all. Instead, he was full of energy. He walked into the kitchen, took out the ingredients, and prepared to cook. After a while in the kitchen, the aroma of a dish wafted out. That aroma was rich, overflowing, and incomparably alluring, causing one's mind to be intoxicated. Shaking the wok, he placed it on a plate. Pieces of orange-red sweet and sour ribs were placed on a blue and white porcelain plate. Bufong held the black turtle constellation wok with one hand and poured the drunken juice from the wok onto the ribs. The slightly viscous, sweet, and fragrant drunken juice was poured onto the ribs. A plate of sweet and sour ribs was completed. The incomparably fragrant sweet and sour ribs was intoxicating. Walking out of the kitchen, Bufong walked in front of Lord Go. He placed the sweet and sour ribs there. "Blackie, it's time to eat," Bufong said calmly. Lord Go instantly opened his dog eyes, which shot out a bright light. He seemed to have smelled the aroma of sweet and sour ribs. Indeed, in front of him, there was a plate of sweet and sour ribs that he hadn't eaten for a long time. In that instant, he was moved, and Lord Go didn't hesitate to rush over. gobbling down the porcelain plate. Hua was woken up by Lord Go's movement. The little girl sat up, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Then, she saw Lord Go gobbling down the porcelain plate. The fragrance in the air made the little lass swallow her saliva involuntarily. You also climbed out of the netherworld ship. This woman opened her mouth wide, yawning. It was obvious that she had a good sleep after drinking a cup of wine yesterday. Bufang looked at Hua and Yu, but he didn't say anything. Then, he turned around and entered the restaurant, starting to cook. After a while, Bufang came out with 2 bowls of dragon blood rice. After placing the dishes on the table, Hua and Yu were ready to eat. After a delicious breakfast, Bufang opened the restaurant's door, bringing the clean plates back to the kitchen. However, this time, when he entered the kitchen, Bufang found that there was a door of light in the corner of the kitchen. Why was there a door of light here? Bufang looked at the door of light, bewildered. Then, the solemn and earnest voice of the system resounded in his mind. The teleportation gate of the restaurant branch has been opened. The teleportation gate of the restaurant branch? Bufang was slightly bewildered. In the next instant, his heart was suddenly filled with curiosity. Bufang knew about the so-called teleportation gate of the restaurant branch. Could it be that by opening this door, he could reach the other branches? If that was the case, it would be very convenient. Thinking about that, Bufang also walked out of the kitchen. Instead, he walked to the door of light, reached out his hand, and pushed it open. With a creaking sound, it was as if a wooden door had been opened. In the next instant, Bufang's figure stepped into the door of light. In front of him was the dazzling Baiguang. When the light dissipated, Bufang finally saw the scene in front of him clearly. Ding-dong. The sound of a knife falling to the ground resounded. Sorceress in Sheng was dumbstruck as she looked at Bufang, who had just walked out of the door of light. Her entire being was in a mess. Boo! Owner Boo! Yang Meiji stood in front of her stove, and it seemed like she was stirring a wok. When she saw Bufang, she was so scared that she almost threw the wok in her hand. Didn't Bufang leave? Why did he suddenly run out of the kitchen? Owner Boo! This time, I really practiced my cooking skills. When Sorceress in Sheng saw Bufang, her mouth trembled in fear. She looked at Bufang with a pitiful expression. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. As expected, this branch's teleportation gate was actually connected to the Cloud Mist restaurant. If Bufang wanted to go to the Cloud Mist restaurant, it would be much more convenient. It's okay. You guys continue cooking. I was just passing by. You guys can do it. I have high hopes for you guys. Bufang expressionlessly looked at Yang Meiji and Sorceress in Sheng. He clenched his fists and said seriously. Then, he turned around and stepped into the door of light once again. A buzzing sound rang out. In front of him, another Baiguang appeared. When the Baiguang disappeared, Bufang could clearly see the scene in front of him. Ding-dong! The sound of the kitchen knife falling rang out again. Bufang was bewildered. His eyes looked straight at Xiao Xiaolong, who was tilting his head as though he was looking at a monster. After stepping through the door of light from the Cloud Mist restaurant, I will arrive at Fong Fong's little store. Then, after stepping through the door of light, I will return to the Tao Tai restaurant. Bufang rubbed his chin, mumbling to himself. It's Owner Boo. Owner Boo, why are you back? Xiao Xiaolong's eyes widened, and his fair skin flushed with excitement. Bufang's appearance was so sudden that he wasn't mentally prepared. Oh, you're cooking egg fried rice? I have high hopes for you. Good luck. Bufang looked at Xiao Xiaolong as he said seriously. Thus, under Xiao Xiaolong's dazed gaze, Bufang turned around and entered the door of light. When Bufang's figure disappeared, the door of light also gradually turned into white dots of light that filled the sky and dissipated. Xiao Xiaolong was bewildered, rubbing his eyes. Was he hallucinating? Or was it because he missed Bufang so much that he was hallucinating, swaying in a circle? Bufang once again returned to the Tao Tai restaurant. The door of light still stood there, and Bufang stood in front of it, deep in thought. The appearance of the door of light made the relationship between Bufang and the restaurants closer. This solved the problem, which was the problem of Bufang teaching some skills to his apprentices and supervising them to practice their culinary skills well. Rubbing his chin, Bufang raised the corners of his mouth and nodded. The Taodai restaurant opened its doors. At this moment, the Taodai restaurant was very famous, and the entire Valley of Gluttony had heard of it. Basically, everyone knew about this restaurant. The other chefs, who thought that they could compete with the Taodai restaurant, had chosen to give up. Because the royal court's holy land had been invaded by the ruined prison, the disciples of the hidden dragon royal court's great sages' lands had gathered around the Valley of Gluttony. Originally, the Valley of Gluttony was surrounded by villages. But now, with the influx of Holy Land disciples, the number of people had increased. There was even a trend of building a city. And because of the influx of Holy Land disciples, the Valley of Gluttony's business was booming. More and more customers came, and the restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony were packed to the brim every day. Especially at Bufang's Taodai restaurant, the queue was very long. Many disciples came because of its reputation. Bufang also started to be busy every day. Chu Changxing's leisurely days had ended. He was in charge of the restaurant's service work, so he was very busy every day. The first Valley Master of the Valley of Gluttony was very leisurely. Every day, besides teaching Xiaoya some cooking skills, he would go to Bufang's restaurant and sit leisurely. Sometimes, he would chat with Chu Changxing or exchange some cooking tips with Bufang. The entrance to the Heaven Chief realm hadn't opened yet, but the old man wasn't in a hurry. After being trapped in the Bronze Palace for several thousand years, the old man also wanted to have a good rest. 3 days later, the old man spent a lot of money to exchange for the Acheron of helplessness from Bufang. He was different from the other saint sovereigns. He wouldn't choose to dilute such a good wine. The goblet was placed on the table. The glass was transparent, and the wine inside was like the stars in the night sky, blooming with mesmerizing radiance. The old man leaned on the chair, holding the goblet with one hand. In front of the many saint sovereigns, he swirled the goblet. In the kitchen, a wave of fragrance wafted out. Bufang carried the piping hot dish out, placing it in front of the old man. Looking at the leisurely old man, he said, "Although the Papillion steak doesn't match this Acheron of helplessness, I don't have a better steak. You could just make do with it. You little chef, this old man wants to have a good taste of this wine that I exchanged for 10 million crystals and a blood grape seed. How special is it?" The old man looked at Bufang, smiling as he spoke. Chapter 909. The Papillon steak paired with the Acheron of helplessness wine was a little low grade. If it was made from the strongest Demon King's demon beef and paired with the Acheron of helplessness wine, it would definitely be the best combination. Of course, the Papillon steak was also not bad. At least, the old man had never tasted a dish like the Papillon steak before. He was very surprised by the dish that Bufang had brought over. The surrounding people were also surprised by this scene. When they found out that the fragrant steak was actually the Papillion steak, all of their eyes couldn't help but widen. That Papillon had actually become Onurbu's ingredient? Onurbu was about to ascend to the heavens. However, they were very excited. They could not wait to taste the Papillon meat. The main reason the ruined prison's experts had invaded was because of this Papillon. To be able to eat this demon beast's meat, as the Holy Land disciples whose homes had been invaded by the ruined prison's experts, it was a kind of catharsis. The old man used his knife to cut off a small piece of Papillon meat that was overflowing with golden oil. Then, under Bufang's guidance, he used a fork to pick up this piece of meat, sending it into his mouth. Once the meat entered his mouth, that kind of soft and tender feeling made the tuft of white hair on the old man's head slightly straighten. The texture of the meat was very good. The oil was smooth, tender, and delicious. Biting down, when the meat fibers rubbed against his teeth, it created a comfortable feeling, making the old man feel as if all the pores on his body were about to open. Extremely comfortable. This meat, the oil is really just right. A little cooked is too much, and a little raw is too little. Delicious, the old man exclaimed. After eating a mouthful of meat, he immediately drank a mouthful of wine. Gently sipping a mouthful, he did not dare to drink it too quickly. The heavenly secret saintess drank it all in one gulp, and that crazy look fell into the old man's eyes. Moreover, A good wine needed to be tasted quietly and slowly. Only then would one be able to taste the good wine's taste. A mouthful of wine, with a smooth texture, instantly entered his mouth. Like silk, it twined around his mouth. The aroma of the Acheron helplessness wine was so strong that the old man's eyes widened involuntarily. His body stiffened, and his entire being sank into the wine. Good wine indeed. All the pores on the old man's body opened up, and energy leaked out. Holding the goblet, the old man let out a hearty laugh. To be able to taste this fine wine, 10 million crystals and a blood grape seed was not a loss at all. Carefully tasting the Acheron helplessness wine, the old man's careful manner stunned everyone in the surroundings. He was the first valley master of the Valley of Gluttony, and he was extremely picky about food. A cup of wine, a plate of Papillion steak, could actually make the valley master of the Valley of Gluttony so infatuated, it was enough to show that it was extraordinary. The surrounding divine sovereigns also felt an itch in their hearts. They couldn't wait for time to pass faster so that they could exchange for good wine with Bufang again. However, they definitely wouldn't be able to drink fine wine today, so the many holy lords could only order a portion of Papillion steak. Regarding the hot sales of the Papillion steak, Bufang was a little surprised. Rubbing his chin, Bufang felt that he should properly raise the Papillion. Otherwise, the Papillion that had invaded the hidden dragon continent from the ruined prison had all been eaten by him. Then, there wouldn't be any place to eat the Papillion meat. Once this thought appeared, it rapidly spread in Bufang's mind. That's right, Bufang felt that he had to raise the Papillion. Placing the plate of Papillion steak that had just been cooked in the Black Turtle constellation wok, Bufang confirmed his thoughts. Carrying the Papillion steak out, he walked out of the kitchen. Coincidentally, Bufang saw Hades' Era, whose shirt was open at the chest area. Saint Daughter Zi Yun obediently followed beside Hades' Era. Little Ha, come here for a moment. After Bufang brought the dish to the customer, he carefully waved his hand at Hades' Era. Hades' Era was bewildered. Then his eyes suddenly shot out a bright light. His figure flickered, and he appeared in front of Bufang. Bufang, young man, why are you looking for I? Are you going to treat I to spicy blood lobster? Hades' Era rubbed his hands, looking at Bufang with an expectant face. Bufang was stunned. This fellow only knew how to eat? No, I'm just asking you a serious question. Just asking a question. Hades' Era instantly felt a little regretful. Then ask. I will tell you in advance that if it involves I's privacy, I have the right to refuse to answer, Hades' Era solemnly said. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. Who cares about your privacy? I want to ask you, can you get a male and a female Papillion? Bufang's question stunned Hades' Era. Then Hades' eyes widened. I didn't expect you to be like this, Bufang, young man. Could it be that the taste of male and female Papillion meat is different? Bufang felt that discussing the meat quality of the ingredients with Hades' Era was really stupid. In fact, he only needed a male and a female Papillion for the convenience of raising. Thus, Bufang refused to answer Hades' Era's question. Instead, he threw out a trump card. If you catch a pair of Papillions, I will provide you with a serving of braised blood lobster for free, Bufang said seriously. It seemed to be very powerful. Hades' Era sucked in a breath of cold air. Braised blood lobster. Was it as delicious as the spicy blood lobster? However, since Bufang, young man, had spoken, it seemed like he couldn't reject this question. Add 5 spicy strips. Hades' Era thought for a moment, then narrowed his eyes and grinned mischievously as he extended one of his palms. Bufang was expressionless as he thought. This guy has grown up. He even learned how to bargain. Okay. Bufang nodded his head. After the deal was made, Hades' Era instantly became excited. With a howl, his figure shot out like an arrow, rapidly dashing into the distance. In a short while, he disappeared into the horizon. He wanted to search for a pair of Papillions all over the mountains and plains. Although he didn't know what Owner Boo wanted to do with the Papillions, he felt that he was going to do something very powerful. The Papillion was a species from the ruined prison. In the ruined prison, it wasn't considered very powerful. However, the Papillion could be used as a strategic tool. In the Dimensional War, the Papillion could bring the seeds of the mandala tree and accelerate the growth of the seeds, sending the Ruin Prison's experts to other planes. However, the Ruin Prison's experts would never have thought that in this dimensional war, their Papillion would become an ingredient in the eyes of others. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, night fell. The restaurant's business was also nearing its end. When the last customer left the restaurant, Bufang also ended his business for the day. Chu Changsheng had already collapsed on the chair, his head full of dry silver hair hanging down. The restaurant's business was too good, which made him, as a waiter, suffer. Chu Changsheng suddenly felt that agreeing to be a waiter in Bufang's restaurant was a very wrong decision. Bufang, on the other hand, didn't feel anything. Although business was very good today, this kind of busy feeling made Bufang enjoy it very much. Of course, after being busy, the tranquility and contentment made people feel even more comfortable. He poured 2 cups of Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew into blue and white porcelain cups. 1 cup was given to Chu Changsheng, while the other was held by himself. He curled up on the chair by the door, looking at the sunset outside the door and sipping on it with relish. Different kinds of wine needed to be stored in different cups. For example, the Ice Heart Jade Urn Wine and Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. Bufang had chosen to use blue and white porcelain cups to store them. However, for this Acheron helplessness, Bufang had chosen to use a transparent goblet to store it. This was because the Ice Heart Jade Urn Wine and Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew were both very pure liquids. As for the Acheron helplessness, because it was brewed using the Scattered Star wine brewing method, the starlight contained within the wine would be concealed if it was stored in a blue and white porcelain cup. However, if it was stored in a goblet, it would be even more starlight, like a dream. Chu Changsheng was very satisfied to have wine to drink, especially Bufang's wine. No matter what kind of wine it was extremely delicious, especially the newly brewed Acheron helplessness. Chu Changsheng had been longing for it for a long time, but the quantity was limited, so he could not drink it. Curling up in front of the restaurant, looking at the colorful sunset in the distance, watching the setting sun, this kind of contentment was not worth mentioning to others. Chu Changsheng was also a little infatuated with this kind of feeling. All of a sudden, where the sky was filled with sunset, a black dot appeared in the distant horizon. That black dot became bigger and bigger, flying toward the restaurant. Very soon, with a loud rumble, Hades' Era clapped his hands, descending from the sky. The 2 Papillions spat bubbles from their mouths and landed in front of the restaurant. I'm so tired. Recently, these Papillions have been getting fewer and fewer. They're almost extinct. Fortunately, I's perception is strong. After searching half of the Hidden Dragon continent, I finally caught a male and a female. Hades' Era sat on the Papillion's head, using his palms to fan the air. He pulled open the clothes in front of his chest, revealing his white chest. Bufang and Chu Changsheng curiously watched. Bufang held a goblet of wine in one hand as he walked out of the restaurant, arriving in front of the Papillions. He walked a circle around the 2 Papillions. As expected, there were 2 Papillions, 1 male and 1 female. Bufang nodded his head in satisfaction. Hades' Era jumped down from the Papillion's back, landing in front of Bufang. Exhaling, he flicked the hair hanging in front of his forehead, looking at Bufang. Bufang, young man, how is it? Satisfied? Were his eyes braised blood lobster? Don't rush. If you're impatient, you won't be able to eat the braised blood lobster. Bufang leisurely walked a circle around the 2 Papillions. Under Bufang's special instructions, these 2 Papillions had not died. Thus, raising them was not a bad choice. With a thought, he stored the 2 Papillions into the heaven and earth farmland. After that, Bufang calmly looked at Hades' Era, saying, "You should sit in the restaurant first. Don't be impatient." Then Bufang drank the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew in 1 gulp. After drinking the wine, Bufang gently exhaled, clasping his hands. The vermilion robe fluttered in the wind. Bufang turned around and walked into the kitchen. As soon as he entered the kitchen, Bufang released his mental energy. Then, Bufong's figure appeared in the heaven and earth farmland. Boom! Rumble! With a loud sound, the two papillions smashed onto the ground. In front of the wooden house, Nyo Han-san, who was leisurely lying on a chair, was instantly startled. Bufong floated down from the sky, landing in front of the wooden house. He indifferently looked at Nyo Han-san, causing the latter's heart to jump. Little cow, isn't it very boring to plow every day? I'll give you a task. Bufong looked at Nyo Han-san, seriously saying. Nyo Hansen's brows twitched, and his mouth drew back. What task? Here are two papillions, one male and one female. Raise them. I need more papillions, Bufong said. After saying that, he walked in front of Nyo Han-san, patting his shoulder. I have high hopes for you. I've always felt that steak should taste better than papillions. So, I hope that you can raise delicious papillions, allowing papillions to surpass steak. Bufong said seriously. Nyo Han-san was a little bewildered. Then, he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Chefs were indeed the most terrifying creatures in this world. Even threatening people was so courteous. Nyo Han-san looked at Bufong, tears almost rolling down his cheeks. How could he say no? He didn't care about Nyo Han-san. Bufong walked to the riverside. Swish! The three-eyed wild lion's head emerged from the river. 80 also poked its head out of the three-eyed wild lion's wet fur, chirping unceasingly. Bufong didn't care about these two fellows. Looking at the blood lobsters swimming leisurely in the river, the corners of his mouth rose. After such a long time, the number of blood lobsters had increased a lot. His mental energy moved, and Bufong's palm slapped the river. Swish! The river water exploded. One by one, the blood lobsters flew out of the river. Bufong waved his hand, catching all of them. The three-eyed wild lion and 80 fell on the ground, looking at Bufong in a daze. So many blood lobsters are enough to cook the braised blood lobsters. I'm really looking forward to it. Blood lobsters floated around Bufong. The corners of his mouth rose as he muttered. Then, under 80 and little three's dazed gazes, he disappeared. In the distance, Nyo Han-san was cursing as he chased after the two lively papillions. The heaven and earth farmland was full of vitality. Chapter 9-10. When Bufong reappeared, he was back in the kitchen. Mental energy was released around his body. Many blood lobsters floated around him, bearing their fangs and claws. They looked a little confused. Putting down those blood lobsters, Bufong began to clean them. This time, he wanted to cook the braised blood lobster. Compared to the spicy blood lobster, its taste was more mellow and fragrant. No matter what kind of blood lobster he was cooking, he had to clean them first. The dragon bone kitchen knife flashed and spun in his hand. He chopped off the spear in front of the head of the blood lobster that had just been cleaned, leaving some of the brain intact. He also cut off the legs. After pulling out the thread, he cut off the tail and washed it again. The blood lobster's head contained poison, so this poison had to be cleaned thoroughly. Each lobster was carefully cleaned. After all of them were cleaned, they were placed on a plate to be drained and ready to be cooked. After completing the reclamation of the heaven and earth farmland, Bufong received a lot of rewards from the system. These rewards were not very high, but they were edible. Scale-tail scallion, sun mother ginger, purple garlic, and other seasoning ingredients were provided. In the heaven and earth farmland, Bufong had specially opened up an area to plant these seasoning ingredients. According to the system's introduction, scale-tail scallion was an ingredient that grew on an isolated island deep in the hidden dragon continent's endless sea. When added to dishes, it could ensure the dish's flavor and fragrance. Sun Mother Ginger was an ingredient from Earth Prison. It could stabilize the spirit energy in dishes and ensure the dish's tenderness and fragrance. Purple garlic was also an ingredient from Earth Prison. Coincidentally, purple garlic and acheron grass grew in the same area, which was also the area under the jurisdiction of the great sage Acheron. When he first entered Earth Prison, Bufong had actually caught a glimpse of purple garlic. However, he did not have the mood to pick it. He did not expect that this time, the system would give it to him as a reward for reclaiming the heaven and earth farmland. Dishes with purple garlic could increase the quality of the dish. It would make the dishes taste even more enchanting, making people intoxicated in the taste of the dish. The scale-tail scallion looked like a thin snake's tail. There seemed to be pieces of snake scales on it. The scallion head was white, with ferocious roots spreading out. With a twist of the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bufang cut off the green onion roots. The green onion roots could be kept. Sometimes, they could be used as an ingredient to make wine. The scale-tail onion's roots could be used as medicine. This was also introduced by the system. He cut the scale-tail scallion into several pieces and placed them on a porcelain plate. The sun mother ginger was cut into slices and placed on the plate. With a tap of the dragon bone kitchen knife, the purple garlic was instantly smashed into pieces. The rhythmic sound of chopping rang out, and the purple garlic was instantly diced into garlic. Originally, the braised blood lobster did not need garlic, but adding a small amount of purple garlic to enhance the taste of the dish was not a problem. These were all ingredients that were placed on a plate as preparation for cooking. The steps of the braised blood lobster were similar to the steps of the spicy blood lobster, but the difference was that the braised blood lobster required more alcohol. With a thought, the black turtle constellation wok appeared. With a loud bang, the black turtle constellation wok smashed onto the stove. Bufang opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dark golden flame. The heaven and earth obsidian flame instantly drilled out, drilling into the bottom of the wok and burning fiercely, releasing an extreme temperature. Hot oil was poured into the black turtle constellation wok, causing the hot oil to splatter. At this moment, all the ingredients were poured into the wok. Sizzling sounds instantly rang out. The scale-tail scallion, sun mother ginger, and purple garlic were all added into the wok. In an instant, thick white smoke rose up, and the smoke carried a pungent smell, stirring up Bufang's breath. After stir-frying for a while, he poured in the spirit herbs that Bufang had prepared, causing the fragrance to become even thicker. Only then did he pour the processed blood lobster into the wok. When the blood lobster was placed into the wok, Bufang's stir-frying speed increased, and during the stir-frying process, he would add many ingredients and seasonings. When the ice fire Taoist brew was placed into the wok, the fragrance instantly surged out. When Bufang smelled this fragrance, his index finger started to move. However, it wasn't done yet. After stir-frying for around half a cup of tea's time, Bufang took out an entire jar of Ice Heart Jade Urn wine. Opening the lid, the fragrance of the Ice Heart Jade Urn wine wafted out. Gulp, gulp, sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The entire jar of Ice Heart Jade Urn wine was poured into the black turtle constellation wok. When the wine entered the wok, white smoke rose. However, as the wine increased, the blood lobster was gradually covered. The entire jar of wine was poured, just enough to cover the blood lobster. His mind flickered, and the lid of the black turtle constellation wok closed, covering the fragrance of the blood lobster. Now, he began to stew them. It would take around a cup of tea's time. In the restaurant Hades era had already started to drool. He sat on the chair, smiling foolishly as he looked at the kitchen. From time to time, he wiped his saliva. He didn't look like the lord of the netherworld at all. In front of the blood lobster, he was just a glutton. The fragrance lingering in the air was too thick. However, the smell of wine was also too heavy. He really couldn't figure out what kind of dish Ownerbu was cooking. You, who had smelled the fragrance, had already gotten out of the netherworld ship and was wandering around the restaurant. Lord Dog also opened his eyes. He laid on the ground and gently breathed in. Hua opened her tri-flower snake eyes, which were spinning. After staying in the restaurant for so long, this little girl had become a little chubby. Her face was so chubby that it was full of meat. It wasn't because of anything else, but because the food in the restaurant was too good. In the kitchen after stewing for around a cup of tea's time, Bufang's mind flickered. The black turtle constellation wok's mouth instantly shook. The lid was lifted, and a thick fragrance gushed out. Taking a deep breath, Bufang's Adam's apple moved. The spicy blood lobster was fragrant and spicy, incomparably numbing. However, the braised blood lobster could only be described in one word: fragrant and mellow. Grabbing the spatula, he stir-fried for a while in the wok, making the fragrance even thicker. Bu Fong's eyes revealed a look of anticipation. Grabbing the black turtle constellation wok's handle, he shook it for a while. After a while, the blood lobsters, which were glistening with oil, tumbled in the air. Steam rolled, and the fragrance filled the air. Bu Fong took out a huge, flat, blue-and-white porcelain plate, placing all the braised blood lobsters on it. The soup poured over them. Sizzling sounds resounded, and the fragrance soared into the sky. Braised blood lobster done. Bu Fong put down the black turtle constellation wok, licking his lips. His eyes revealed his eagerness. Eating something like blood lobster would make one addicted. In a corner of the kitchen, Xiao Bai's eyes twinkled. Lightning arcs flashed on his body. After experiencing the lightning punishment, the energy on Xiao Bai's body had become even stronger and thicker. Once he completely recovered, Xiao Bai's fighting ability would increase tremendously. Carrying the braised blood lobsters, he walked out of the kitchen. The fragrance seemed to have materialized, floating in the air. Everyone couldn't help but sniff the fragrance in the air, their throats constantly moving. The fragrance wafted out of the restaurant, and in a short while, it had spread to the entire valley of gluttony. Everyone smelled it, and their eyes were filled with desire and astonishment. Many people gathered in front of the restaurant. The tuft of white hair on the old man's head fluttered. Accompanied by his loud laughter, he held a cup of Acheron helplessness in his hand as he flew over. This cup of Acheron helplessness, he felt like he could drink it for a year. More and more people gathered in front of the restaurant. However, the restaurant had already closed for business. Everyone resisted the urge to enter. They all stood outside the restaurant, craning their necks to look inside. However, only the fragrance wafted out of the restaurant, and they couldn't see the inside of the restaurant. This was a pain in the ass. Everyone felt like there was a claw scratching at their hearts. These experts weren't just the disciples of the great sage's lands. They were also the saints' sovereign-level existences of the great sage's lands. Everyone gathered in front of the restaurant, staring at it. Suddenly, someone walked out of the restaurant. Hades' Era's face seemed to be blooming with a smile. He was holding a big plate, and on the plate was the fragrant braised blood lobsters. He placed the braised blood lobsters in front of the restaurant, then pulled over a chair. The fragrance was emitted from the dish. Everyone widened their eyes, staring at the braised blood lobsters as they swallowed their saliva. Bu Fong pulled a chair, sitting beside the plate of braised blood lobsters. You and the rest also pulled out chairs, gathering in front of the restaurant. Chu Changsheng licked his face, grinning as he moved to the side, looking at the braised blood lobsters with anticipation. This dish's fragrance was simply too fragrant. The gluttonous bugs in their stomachs were about to be lured out. "Owner Bu, what's this dish called?" Some experts couldn't help but open their mouths to ask Bu Fong. At this moment, Bu Fong didn't have the mood to answer that person. He reached out his hand, grabbing a bright red braised blood lobster. The soup dripped down. With one hand holding the lobster, the other hand twisted the lobster's head. Instantly, the steaming hot soup flowed out. Bu Fong's eyes brightened. With a slurping sound, he sucked all the soup into his mouth. That soup was mellow and fragrant, with a hint of the ice heart jade, urn wine's fragrance, and the fresh taste of the braised blood lobsters. Because of the scale tail, scallion, and sun mother ginger, the fresh taste of the braised blood lobsters was preserved to the fullest. Crack! The lobster shell was peeled off, and instantly, the tender lobster meat was exposed to the air. Steam lingered around the lobster meat. It wasn't as spicy and ruddy as the spicy blood lobster, but it looked like an exquisitely carved jade. After dipping it in the sauce that Bu Fong had prepared, it was stuffed into his mouth. The elastic and tough lobster meat instantly bloomed in his mouth. The taste of the lobster burst forth, causing Bu Fong to involuntarily narrow his eyes. Hades' Era watched Bu Fong eat happily, and his heart was already itching. This dish is called the braised blood lobster. It's a delicious dish that Owner Bu specially cooked for I. Hades' Era wiped his saliva, turning his head to talk to the group of people blocking the restaurant. Then, he proudly grabbed a braised blood lobster and started to eat like Bufong. He didn't say anything. She just ate the lobster directly. Hua looked at Bufong and Yu, then started to eat. As soon as the lobster entered his mouth, his triflower snake eyes spun one round, showing a happy face. Chu Changsheng had only eaten one, but he was completely captured. The clothes on his body exploded, and he burst out laughing. It was unknown when Lord Dog's Paw had come over, but it had already picked up a blood lobster and bit down on it along with the shell. Gulp, gulp. Many people looked at the few despicable people in front of the restaurant, enjoying the braised blood lobsters. They couldn't help but gulp their saliva. Those people did it on purpose. They purposely brought this delicious dish to the restaurant to eat. They just wanted to entice them. Many people were enraged. However, no matter how angry they were, they still wanted to eat it. The old man sniffed the aroma in the air. He couldn't stand it anymore. He carefully put away the acheron of helplessness. Then, he lowered his body, dashing away. He dashed toward the braised blood lobsters. His body was silent. He wanted to grab a lobster and run away. However, it was a pity that the tuft of white hair on his head betrayed him. That tuft of white hair swayed in front of Hades' era, making Hades' era widen his eyes. He flicked his finger on the old man's head. A terrifying energy shot out, sending the old man flying away. You dare to eat Eyes braised blood lobsters? Young man, do you want to be flicked to death? Hades' era held a braised blood lobster in his mouth. His oily finger pointed at the old man who was sent flying away, speaking domineeringly. The old man flipped and got up. He rubbed his swollen glabella, his face indignant. Why are you so proud? I can't eat it, and you can't eat it either, the old man said. Hades' era was stunned. His mind shivered. Turning his head to look, his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The entire plate of braised blood lobsters only had the gravy flowing on it. The last braised blood lobster was caught by Hua's fat and oily little hand. As if meeting Hades' era's gaze, Hua smiled adorably. That oily little face was like a Hua cat. The hand that was grabbing the braised blood lobster quickly retracted, stuffing it into his mouth and sucking. Bufong and the rest were curled up on their chairs, happily sucking on their oily fingers. Their faces were full of satisfaction. "Oh, you bastards, this is Eyes braised blood lobster." A heart-wrenching howl resounded through the entire valley of gluttony. It lingered and reverberated for a long time. Chapter 9:11. Hades' era was a little annoyed. If he had known earlier, he would have told Bufong to give the braised blood lobsters to him directly after cooking so that he could bring them back to eat. That way, he would be able to carefully taste the incomparably delicious braised blood lobsters. Compared to the fragrant, spicy blood lobsters, the taste wasn't that spicy, but it was more mellow and fragrant. It was even more intoxicating and addictive. He had only eaten a few of the entire plate of braised blood lobsters. Of course, part of the reason was that he ate slowly. Compared to you, that brat's unique and fast way of eating, Hades' era ate very slowly. Facing the incomparably sorrowful Hades' era, Bufong, who was curled up on the chair, also felt a little embarrassed. He had eaten quite a lot. After all, something like the braised blood lobsters was too tempting. Bufong couldn't help but eat a few more. Little Ha, there will be spicy strips and braised blood lobsters. Don't be too sad. Bufong comforted him. The few people sitting around Bufong all agreed with Bufong's words, constantly nodding their heads. Facing this group of scoundrels, what could Hades' era do? The braised blood lobsters were finished, but the air was still filled with a rich fragrance. This fragrance lingered in their nostrils, making them feel extremely greedy. The old man felt that it was a pity that he couldn't taste Bufong's braised blood lobsters again. Back then, Bufong had used this dish to win against him. He had always wanted to know where he had lost. He had eaten many braised blood lobsters. In the thousands of years in the Bronze Palace, he could only eat braised blood lobsters. However, his cooking method was completely different from Bufong's. Different cooking methods would make dishes with different tastes. Hence, The old man was still looking forward to this braised blood lobster. Moreover, he realized that this time, the way Bufong cooked the braised blood lobsters seemed to be different from before. This meant that there was more than one cooking method for this braised blood lobster. As for Bufong's culinary skills, the old man was even more impressed. However, at the same time, he couldn't help but sigh. At that time, he thought that his cooking skills had already stood at the peak of the Hidden Dragon continent. However, later on, he found information about the Heaven Chief realm from an ancient book and learned that there was a group of people in this world with superb cooking skills. Therefore, in order to pursue the pinnacle of cooking, the old man sought transcendence and entered the Bronze Palace. However, after several thousand years, he still couldn't break through. Now, there was a Bufong. This little chef's cooking skills were enough to crush him. But even so, he still didn't stand at the peak of cooking. How strong were the chefs in the Heaven Chief realm? The more the old man thought about it, the more he sucked in a cold breath. There was still a long way to go on the road of cooking. After ending the day's business, Bufong closed the restaurant's doors. The people who were infatuated with the blood lobster's aroma also left. Looking at those people who were reluctant to leave, Bufong's mind couldn't help but be moved. He felt that if he opened a food stall on the long street of the Gluttony God City, perhaps it would be very popular. Unfortunately, he already had a restaurant. Food stalls were things that he could only think about. Hidden Dragon Royal Court's Holy Land at this moment, the Holy Land was in ruins. However, at the center of the Holy Land, where the Heavenly Secret Holy Land was located, the Heavenly Secret Holy Land had been invaded by the ruined prison's experts. The originally pure and holy Heavenly Secret Holy Land was now shrouded in a layer of black clouds. The black clouds circled in the sky, turning into a thick layer of clouds that carried a heavy pressure. Heavenly Secret Holy Land's center palace, in the middle of the main hall, a tall and sturdy figure was sitting cross-legged. That figure wasn't someone else. It was the strongest demon king, who had run away from the Taotai restaurant in a sorry state. Below the strongest demon king was a group of ruined prisons experts, who were as quiet as cicadas in winter. Rumble. Outside the palace, thunder boomed, and the illusionary void was suddenly torn open, revealing a crack. Then from that crack, sinister-looking warships slowly sailed out. These warships looked extremely ferocious, and there were many patterns on them. These are the warships of the ruined prison. Now that the great path of the Hidden Dragon continent had collapsed, the ruined prison's experts, who had lost their restraints, drove their warships into this world. One ship, two ships, that crack seemed to be unable to bear the burden. One after another, warships sailed out of it, accompanied by loud booms. There was a total of 8 pitch-black warships, and the heads of the warships were carved with the images of sinister spirit beasts. The warships floated in the sky above the Heavenly Secret Holy Land, releasing a terrifying aura. Silhouettes shuttled out from the warships. The auras of these silhouettes were extremely powerful, forming a rather shocking army. In each warship, there was an expert leading the group. These experts were clad in battle armor that caused the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. But as the illusionary void seemed to tremble, distorting. Then, in the great hall of the palace, 8 experts slowly appeared. The ruined prison's 8 great demon kings had arrived. The strongest demon king sat on the chair in the middle of the palace, indifferently looking at the 8 demon kings. The auras of the 8 demon kings were very strong, and each of their eyes emitted a terrifying aura. The demon king of the Demon Eye clan, the demon scorpion clan, the demon crocodile clan. These 8 demon kings were all giants of the ruined prison. They were the strongest existences besides the ruined prison's master. The demon king of the Demon Eye clan had a rotating eyeball on his forehead. It was completely black, emitting an evil aura. I am the demon king of the Demon Eye clan. Greetings, Lord. When the demon king of the Demon Eye clan saw the strongest demon king, he smiled and waved his hand at him. Many experts of the ruined prison respectfully lowered their heads. The strongest demon king glanced at the demon king of the Demon Eye clan. Raising his hand, he played with his bullhorn. In the next instant, the atmosphere in the great hall suddenly became oppressive. Everyone's eyes shrank. The strongest Demon King's figure suddenly streaked across the air, leaving behind a series of afterimages. In the next instant, he appeared in front of the Demon King of the Demon Eye clan. The Demon King of the Demon Eye clan's face changed. He wanted to explain, but he realized that the strongest Demon King was unreasonable, pressing his neck and ruthlessly pressing him to the ground. A loud boom resounded. The ground of the great hall suddenly exploded, sinking in, revealing a deep pit. "You seem to really want this lord's body." The strongest Demon King grinned. The Demon King of the Demon Eye clan's heart trembled. Everything that he had done in the Bronze Palace, this strongest Demon King still bore a grudge. I was just curious. Boom. However, just as the Demon King's words fell, the strongest Demon King pressed his head, ruthlessly grabbing it and smashing it again. The entire great hall shook. Everyone didn't dare to speak, lowering their heads to watch the Demon King of the Demon Eye clan being abused by the strongest Demon King. After a long time, the strongest Demon King once again returned to his seat, leaning on it, sweeping his gaze across everyone present. "Listen to this, Lord. You're not allowed to go south of the Valley of Gluttony. You're not allowed to provoke the Valley of Gluttony. As for the other resources, you guys can distribute them however you want. This Lord won't interfere," said the strongest Demon King. After saying that, he leaned back on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. The Demon King of the Demon Eye clan had black blood dripping from the corners of his mouth. His face was bruised and swollen. He lowered his head, hatred surging in his heart. However, the strongest Demon King's fighting ability wasn't something he could compare to. Hence, he could only be angry, not daring to say anything. There will be a day, this demon bull, will become this lord's puppet. At that time, the humiliation this lord has suffered, I will return it double. Because the strongest Demon King had given an order. The experts of the ruined prison didn't launch an attack on the area south of the Valley of Gluttony. However, many experts of the ruined prison didn't care about this. Just a mere Valley of Gluttony. What did it have to stop their powerful army of the ruined prison? At that time, when the strongest Demon King was defeated, not many people saw it. Those who saw it didn't dare to speak of it. So many experts of the ruined prison weren't too clear about it, especially the 8 great Demon Kings. They felt a little resentful towards the strongest Demon King's action of retreating. Their great army of the ruined prison had attacked the hidden dragon continent. How could they be satisfied with just a corner? Their goal was to conquer the entire hidden dragon continent. They even wanted to occupy the endless sea of the hidden dragon continent. Although this continent was low level, it contained countless resources. It could become the back garden of the ruined prison. However, although the 8 great Demon Kings were indignant, the demon might of the strongest Demon King was still there. They didn't dare to be too impudent. Hence, the situation was in a deadlock. The hidden dragon continent, with the Valley of Gluttony as the boundary line, the entire area south of the Valley of Gluttony had become the hell of the ruined prison. Nether energy filled the sky, and all the creatures on the continent had fallen. The continent seemed to have become an extreme. Time passed under the situation, day by day. A creaking sound rang out. The door of the Tao Dai restaurant was opened. Bufong lazily walked out of it, stretched his body, and yawned. He pulled a chair over, sitting at the entrance. Winter had passed, and all living things on the earth had recovered. On the ground outside the door, there were some tender grass sprouts, growing sharp horns. As the restaurant opened for business, the people queuing outside the door gradually gathered. Bufong had started his busy day. To Bufong, this kind of busy day wasn't bad. He enjoyed it a lot. As time passed, Bufong's turnover increased. Once his turnover reached the critical point, Bufong would have a breakthrough. Today, Bufong understood that if he wanted to become a strong chef, he must first have a strong body and cultivation base. Only then could he cook more perfect dishes. Bufong's cultivation base was stuck at the peak of the divine soul realm. He hadn't entered the divine spirit realm because he hadn't completed the divine spirit realm's test. Previously, it was because his cultivation base wasn't stable enough. Today, Bufong felt that the time was right. He could choose to take the divine spirit realm's test. As long as he passed the system's examination, it meant that Bufong could ignite the divine flame and enter the divine spirit realm. Once he entered the divine spirit realm, it meant that Bufong's cultivation had a new direction. However, Bufong wasn't anxious about the divine spirit realm's test. He didn't know what kind of test the system would give him, so Bufong still had to prepare well. The day's business ended. After Bufong closed the Taotai restaurant's door, he entered the Cloud Mist restaurant through the light door. In the Cloud Mist restaurant, Sorceress and Sheng and Yang Meiji were seriously practicing their cooking skills. In this half a month, the two of them weren't surprised by Bufong's sudden appearance. When Bufong appeared, he would teach them some cooking skills. So, sometimes, the two of them were really looking forward to Bufong's appearance. After wandering around the Cloud Mist restaurant for a while, Bufong went to Fong Fong's little store to meet some old acquaintances. Then, he returned to the Taodai restaurant. Standing in front of the kitchen stove, Bufong rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought. System, start the Divine Spirit Realms test. Bufong was silent for a long time. Finally, he opened his mouth. Is the host prepared to take the Divine Spirit Realms test? If the test fails, the host's cultivation base will return to the Divine Spirit Realm with a one-step soul ladder. If the test succeeds, the host will ignite the Divine Flame and enter the Divine Spirit Realm. The system's solemn and earnest voice rang out, carrying a hint of sternness. However, after careful consideration, Bufong felt that his cultivation base had already stabilized, so he could start the Divine Spirit Realms test. When the system heard that Bufong had agreed to take the test, it was silent for a long time before it opened its mouth. Host, please pay attention. The Divine Spirit Realms test will now begin. Test content. Use the ingredients in the farmland to cook a unique dish. The system will provide an evaluation. Chapter 9:12. Using ingredients from the heaven and earth farmland to cook a dish, and a unique dish? When Bufong heard the system's words, he froze on the spot. He did not expect that the test this time would be related to the heaven and earth farmland. In the heaven and earth farmland, many of the ingredients that Bufong had grown should have matured. However, these matured ingredients did not have those high-grade ingredients. After all, the fruits and vegetables that Bufong had grown in the heaven and earth farmland were very ordinary, just that the spirit energy they contained was a little dense. However, the ingredients that he had exchanged with the Acheron of helplessness from the Saint Sovereigns were not bad. Unfortunately, they had not matured yet. On the other hand, the Phoenix Blood Vermilion fruit was about to mature. However, it was just about to mature. It had not reached the level of being completely ripe, so it could not be eaten. The system required him to use the ingredients in the heaven and earth farmland, and he also needed to make a unique dish. This time, Bufong was really stunned on the spot. He rubbed his chin, frowning as he thought about what kind of dish he should use the ingredients in the heaven and earth farmland to cook. After thinking for a while, Bufong did not have the slightest clue. Bufong rubbed his hair. His mind flickered, and his figure disappeared from his spot, entering the heaven and earth farmland. Instead of thinking randomly, it was better to enter the heaven and earth farmland to see if there were any usable ingredients. Once he entered the heaven and earth farmland, a gentle breeze blew, and the air was filled with the fragrance of various spirit fruits. Bufong hovered in the sky, looking down. The heaven and earth farmland was neatly divided. It was divided into several areas. Some were breeding areas where papillions were being bred. Several small and cute papillions followed behind the big papillion, constantly calling out. In a corner of the breeding area, there were several papillion eggs shining brightly. To the side of the breeding area was an area for growing vegetables. Every day, Bufong would come here to turn the soil and water the vegetables. Below the vegetable area was the spirit herb area. There were many precious spirit herbs, such as the Phoenix Blood Vermilion fruit, blood grapes, and so on. Besides these areas, there were many other areas where some ingredients were scattered around. A river passed through these areas. Fat fishes were jumping out of the river from time to time. Blood lobsters were waving their pincers and chasing after the fishes. Bufong floated down and appeared in front of the wooden house. In front of the wooden house, there was a reclining chair. On the reclining chair, there was a cow resting leisurely. Neo Hansen's days in the heaven and earth farmland were very leisurely and could be said to be very enjoyable. Every day he would eat, sleep, and eat. Occasionally, he would do some farm work, refurbishing the soil, and so on. Compared to the days of fighting and killing in the ruined prison, it was much more enjoyable. The three-eyed wild lion and 80 were running in the distance. The three-eyed wild lion had completely become 80's lackey. Every day, it would follow 80 around the heaven and earth farmland. From time to time, it would even destroy some ingredients. It was very satisfying. Bufong's appearance surprised Neo Hansen a little. Neo Hansen opened his eyes a little. When he saw Bufong, he immediately straightened his body on the reclining chair, rubbing his hands. With an excited face, he said, "Oh, isn't this Owner Boo? Didn't you just eat? Now you want to cook delicious food again?" Neo Hansen licked his lips. The current him could be said to be completely loyal to this world. With such a relaxing place, Neo Hansen didn't want to go out to fight and kill. Who knew when he would be killed and eaten? In this place, there's good food, good drinks, and he could sleep leisurely. How could he not be happy? No, this time, I'm not here to cook. I'm here to harvest. Bufong clasped his hands, speaking seriously. Harvest? Neo Hansen was taken aback. Then, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Owner Boo, there are many ingredients in our farmland. None of them are ripe. If you really want to harvest, perhaps you can only harvest those cabbages. Neo Hansen waved his hand and said helplessly, "The cabbages in the vegetable area were planted by Bufong earlier, so they should be the first to be harvested." When Bufong heard Neo Hansen's words, he immediately furrowed his brows. Only cabbages? Bufong turned around and walked to the vegetable area. Neo Hansen also followed him. Stepping on the soft soil, Bufong gently exhaled. The air was filled with the fragrance of fruits, vegetables, and spirit herbs. Strolling in his farmland, Bufong's mood was indescribably happy. The cabbages in the vegetable area were all huge and plump. They looked very sturdy, and their leaves were clear, without any flaws or holes. They even shone with a bright radiance. Only cabbages? Bufong rubbed his chin, feeling a little conflicted. He continued walking. The eggplant was not ripe yet, but it would mature soon. However, the eggplant in its current state could not be eaten. As for the phoenix blood vermilion fruit and blood grapes, they were still a little lacking. It seemed like this time, he could only choose cabbages. However, what kind of dish could he make with only cabbages? Bufong squatted down, looking at the cabbages as he sank into deep thought. Neo Hansen, who was following behind Bufong, didn't know what to say when he saw Bufong suddenly frowning and thinking. He didn't know what to say. Neo Hansen, who was usually very talkative, didn't say anything today. There's no other way. It seems like I can only choose cabbages. Bufong gently exhaled. As for the blood lobsters and fish in the river, Bufong didn't choose them. Bufong had already used these ingredients, so he couldn't make anything unique. As for the papillion, other than making papillion steak, wasn't a good ingredient to make other dishes. Thus, Bufong could only choose cabbages. Raising his hand, he plucked 2 cabbages. The cabbages were fresh and full of water, and there was even some dirt on them. Bufong grabbed the cabbages and shook them, shaking off the dirt. "Take good care of the farmland. I'll eat first." Bufong carried the 2 cabbages and stood up, one on the left, one on the right. He glanced at Neo Hansen, and under the latter's strange gaze, Bufong's figure disappeared with the cabbages he was carrying. When he reappeared, Bufong had returned to the kitchen. Placing the cabbages on the stove, Bufong looked at the cabbages in a daze. What kind of unique dish could he cook with cabbages? Stir-fried cabbages? Dried pot cabbage? Plain Chinese cabbage? Bufong thought of many ways to cook cabbages, but he realized that none of them were suitable. A unique dish Bufong rubbed his chin, his vermilion robe slightly swaying as he pondered. Suddenly, Bufong seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes instantly lit up. With a flash of light, the dragonbone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. The knife light flashed, and a fresh cabbage was directly cut open. The cabbages were filled with juice, and after being cut open, perfectly round water droplets rolled on top of the cabbages. After cutting the cabbages into pieces, he placed them into the porcelain bowl that he had prepared. Bufong didn't take out the black turtle constellation wok, nor did he prepare the seasoning. Instead, his mind flickered, and he began to haggle with the system with a flushed face. In the end, Bufong asked for a transparent bag from the system. This bag was obviously not an ordinary bag. It was unknown what material was used to make it, but it was very stable and not easy to break. After all, it was a product of the system, so it must be of high quality. Bufong's eyes slightly brightened. He stuffed the freshly cut cabbages into the transparent bag, made of unknown material. Then his mind flickered, and he took out a crystal jar of abyssal chili sauce from the system dimensional bag. Knocking on the abyssal chili sauce, Bufong felt that this chili sauce was really a good thing. He scooped up a spoonful of chili sauce and poured it into the bag, mixing it with the cabbages. Bufong scooped up a small spoonful of acheron of helplessness and poured it into the bag. Instantly, the fragrance of the wine spread out from the bag. The mouth of the bag was opened, and some seasoning was also added inside, causing the inside of the bag to become very messy. In the end, Bufong shook the bag a few times and sealed it. Bufong looked at the transparent bag in his hand with satisfaction. The cabbages in the bag were filled with spirit energy, and after being soaked in the abyssal chili sauce, they slightly changed color. What did Bufong want to do? Other than the methods he had thought of before, there was another unique method to make cabbages, and that was kimchi. That's right, Bufong wanted to make kimchi. However, he did not want to use the normal method to make kimchi. He wanted to use a unique method to make it. Didn't the system want to be unique? Then Bufong would give a unique method. At this moment, the system was a little confused. Perhaps it could not guess what kind of dish Bufong wanted to make. Satisfied, he held the bag and walked out of the kitchen, entering the restaurant. The restaurant had already closed for business. Inside the restaurant, there were only a few figures sitting on chairs, drinking wine and leisurely chatting. These people were not strangers. They were Chu Changsheng, Hades' era, and the old man with a tuft of white hair on his head. The old man had decided to pester here no matter what. Anyway, there was good food in Bufong's restaurant, and he could wait with Bufong for the opening of the Heaven Chief world. Why not? Moreover, there were so many cute souls here. Whether it was Hades' era or Chu Changsheng, they all had something to talk to him about. They had already become friends. When they saw Bufong walking out of the kitchen, they smiled and greeted him. However, when Bufong saw them, his eyes brightened. He weighed the transparent bag in his hand, looked at the three of them, and the corners of his mouth rose as he walked over. Bufong pulled out a chair and sat in front of them. He poured a cup of ice-hard jade urn wine and drank it in one gulp. Bufong, young man, what's in that transparent bag in your hand? Asked Hades' era, who was holding a spicy strip in his mouth, curiously looking at the transparent bag in Bufong's hand. Chu Changsheng and the old man also looked over curiously. Since you asked so sincerely, I have something that I need your help with, said Bufong expressionlessly. Help? What kind of help? Don't tell me you need I to catch a male and female papillion again? Hades' era rolled his eyes. Catch a male and female papillion? What do you want to do with them? Bufong looked at Hades' era. Do you see this bag? This is a new dish that I'm working on. I need your help. Hearing Bufong's words, Hades' era and the others were shocked. You want us to help you cook? Bufong, young man, when did you trust one so much? Is I finally going to show my skills? Thinking back to the time when I cooked the black spicy strip, those who heard it would feel sad, and those who ate it would cry. Hades opened his mouth, chattering nonstop. However, he was quickly stopped by Bufong. Bufong was too lazy to care about this clown. He directly looked at Chu Changsheng. Owner Bu, tell us, how can we help you? We believe in your cooking skills, Chu Changsheng solemnly said. Bu Fong actually needed their help to cook. It seemed like this dish was definitely not ordinary. They had to treat it seriously. Seeing Chu Changsheng being so serious, Bu Fong was a little touched. He solemnly nodded his head, placing the transparent bag on the table. Taking a deep breath, Bu Fong seriously said to Chu Changsheng, "Little Chu, use all your strength to smash it." Smash it? Smash this bag filled with cabbages. Chu Changsheng was bewildered by Bu Fong's words. Didn't he say he wanted to cook? How'd it become smashing the bag? The old man's face was also puzzled and curious. This dish is called fragrant spicy kimchi. Believe me, you just need to use all your strength to smash it with your fists. Bu Fong sincerely looked at Chu Changsheng, speaking in a serious tone. Using fists to smash vegetables. Was that considered cooking? Was Onorbu serious? Chapter 9:13. Smashing the bag with force. Was this also a cooking method? He had never seen such a method before. Chu Changsheng slightly furrowed his brows, revealing a trace of surprise. Bu Fong actually wanted him to smash the bag with all his strength? It was such a fragile bag. If he punched it, the bag would probably explode, and the ingredients inside would splatter out as well. Thinking about that scene made him feel awkward. Thus, this matter. Chu Changsheng was still a little hesitant, and he couldn't do it. Nether King Air Ha was very curious. There was such a simple and clear cooking method. Did it mean that he, Hades Era, could cook dishes in the future? The black spicy strip from before was a stain on Hades Era's heart. It wasn't something that a human could eat. The old man fell into deep thought. Looking at the bag, he furrowed his brows. The wrinkles on the old man's face slightly trembled. After thinking for a while, his eyes brightened. Onorbu, do you plan to use violent smashing to make the taste inside fuse with the ingredients? Bu Fong looked at the old man in astonishment. He didn't expect the old man to understand the principle behind this. However, the old man clearly understood a little. This method sounded simple, but it was actually very difficult to execute. But can this bag withstand Little Chu's punch? Little Chu's cultivation base isn't weak. With one punch, he can destroy a house. Just smash it. If it breaks, it's on me. Regarding the old man's worries, Bu Fong patted his chest as a guarantee. If the bag produced by the system could be easily smashed by Chu Changsheng, then he would have ascended to the heavens. Onorbu seems to be very confident. Or, are you not confident in this old man's fist? Chu Changsheng looked at Bu Fong's confident expression, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. No matter what, Chu Changsheng could be considered a sect master-level existence. Since he had fused with the Tao Ye's heart, his physical strength was extremely formidable. With a single punch, he could smash that bag into smithereens. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but you really can't break it. Bu Fong looked at Chu Changsheng, twitching the corners of his mouth. In fact, he didn't want to tell the truth. Chu Changsheng took a deep breath. He didn't say anything else. It seemed like he really had to show off his skills. Looking at the transparent bag in front of the dining table, Chu Changsheng raised his hand. Bu Fong looked at him indifferently. Hades Era watched with great interest. The old man stroked the tuft of white hair on his head with great interest. If Chu Changsheng's palm hit the bag and it exploded, wouldn't Onorbu's face look good? Hades Era and the old man stole a glance at Bu Fong. They suddenly felt a little excited. Onorbu, I'll smash it then. Chu Changsheng swallowed his saliva, turning his head to look at Bu Fong, speaking solemnly. Smash it. Don't be afraid, just smash it boldly. Bu Fong rubbed his nose. Umph. Chu Changsheng couldn't help but snort inwardly. It seemed Onorbu had underestimated him. If that was the case, explode it, little bag. Chu Changsheng's eyes shrank. His palm suddenly slapped the bag. With a swooshing sound, it seemed to tear the air. With a loud bang, the palm landed solidly on the dining table. The dining table shook, making squeaking noises. In the kitchen, Xiao Bai's ash-gray eyes twinkled. Lightning seemed to be moving in his eyes. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others. Xiao Bai's head popped out, his mechanical voice echoing. Chu Changsheng was a little embarrassed, looking at Xiao Bai. I'm playing with Onorbu. After explaining, Xiao Bai returned to the kitchen. Chu Changsheng raised his hand. On the table, the bag was still intact, and the cabbage inside didn't have any drastic changes. Bufang glanced at it, sighing. No, you're still too weak. He didn't smash it? Chu Changsheng's face reddened, and his silver hair cascaded down his face. It's an accident. This bag is really tough. Owner Bu, give me another chance. Chu Changsheng said seriously. It seemed Bufang wasn't joking. He could smash this bag as he pleased. If so, he wouldn't be polite. Okay. Bufang nodded. What's the harm in giving Chu Changsheng another chance? Let's go outside. We don't want Mr. Bai to misunderstand again, Chu Changsheng said. He grabbed a small bag and walked out of the restaurant. Bufang didn't mind. He clasped his hands, following him. In the restaurant, Hades Era and the old man were curious. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, opened his eyes, yawning. Xiao Hua, on the other hand, widened his eyes and ran out to watch the show. Of course, you wouldn't miss this chance to join the fun. As the Heavenly Secret Holy Land Saintess, the Heavenly Secret Saint Master had asked her to go to the Heavenly Secret Holy Land's base to teach many disciples. She hadn't returned yet. Otherwise, with that woman's personality, she would have thrown a punch. A group of people walked to the restaurant. The passers-by were attracted by them. Chu Changsheng placed the transparent bag with the cabbage on the ground, signaling the others to step back and make space. True energy twirled around Chu Changsheng's body. A moment later, light shot out from his eyes. His body enlarged, and his muscles bulged. In just a blink of an eye, he had become a 3-meter-tall giant. Roar! Chu Changsheng roared. His silver hair was like steel needles piercing through the air, making the air explode. His eyes turned, falling on a bag on the ground. Chu Changsheng clenched his fists. Then he opened his mouth. His muscles were like dragons, as tough as steel. He raised both of his hands, pounding the transparent bag on the ground. His speed was so fast that it seemed like the air was about to be smashed. The surrounding people were startled, taking in a breath of cold air. What was he doing? With such a huge force, the bag on the ground would be smashed through, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that bag be smashed into pieces by Chu Changsheng? What's the point? Boom! Everybody was shaken. They felt the ground shake, and a wave of energy rippled out. The ground caved in. Intense fluctuations emerged, and patterns spread out densely. Chu Changsheng, who had become a 3-meter-tall giant, was so strong that he could smash a small mountain with his bare hands. His power was displayed to the fullest, making the surrounding people exclaim in admiration. However, Bufang shook his head regretfully. Hades Era and the old man also sighed. That bag was still intact. Chu Changsheng, who had turned into a giant, took several steps back. He reached out his hand, pulling out the transparent bag that was stuck in the ground. He found that the bag was still intact, without a single crack or damage. I can't break it. Chu Changsheng, who had turned into a giant, was dumbstruck. His body shrank, returning to his youthful appearance. However, his face was a little embarrassed. Interesting. Let me give it a try. The old man was a little curious. He stepped forward, took the bag from Chu Changsheng's hand, and put it on the ground. Then he took a deep breath. Buzz, the old man's cultivation base was so strong that the surrounding spirit energy seemed to sweep toward his body. Then the old man raised his fist. True energy gathered in his body, as if it had turned into a roaring beast shadow. A punch pounding. The ground instantly trembled, and it caved in again. This time, a half circle was formed. The surrounding people screamed in surprise. This old man, who looked so old, was actually that strong. Owner Boo's items are really mysterious. I'm old, so I can't break it. The old man's figure floated out of the deep pit. He held the intact bag in his hand and said with a wry smile. Bufang looked at the bag. The cabbage, the abyssal chili sauce, and the other seasonings had started to merge. However, it was still far from Bufang's expectation. Let I do it. Hades Era chewed for a while, finishing the spicy strip in his mouth. He rolled up his sleeves, his face excited. Hades Era was also excited to be able to participate in cooking, especially since it was such a unique cooking method, Hades' era was even more excited. The old man glanced at Hades' era, and his eyes brightened. He casually threw the small bag to Hades' era. Era caught it. The cabbage in a bag was a little warm. Apparently, the old man and Chu Changxing's attack had some effect. Buffon young man, if I break this bag, will you deduct I's spicy strip? Hades' era squinted, asking. No, if you can break it, I'll give you 3 spicy strips, said Buffon, clasping his hands. Oh, Buffon young man, you're really arrogant, aren't you? Don't forget how awesome I am. Looking at Buffon's confident appearance, Nether King Erha's eyes narrowed, and the hair on his head fluttered. In the next moment, he suddenly tossed the small bag into the air, and dense nether energy spread out from his body. His hand swung. Thousands of strands of nether energy gathered, turning into a giant palm that covered the sky. That palm had terrifying pressure, as if it wanted to smash the entire valley of gluttony. It was a terrible feeling, as if it was the end of the world. In the restaurant, Lord Go couldn't help but open his eyes. This clown, crazy again. Boom! Rumble. As the palm slapped, everybody felt as if they had been in another world. A moment later, their vision became clear again. In the air, a transparent bag was still floating. The cabbage and seasonings inside seemed to be boiling. Buffon's eyes brightened. Hades' era's slap was really powerful. His mind flickered, and his mental energy expanded, covering the transparent bag. Buffon's mouth twitched. What a pity. Although Hades' era's slap was really powerful, it was still not enough. The cabbage and seasonings in the bag hadn't fused completely. Hades' era was a little embarrassed, looking at the undamaged bag. He forced a smile. Ha! This bag is really sturdy. Not bad. I like it. Buffon, you should ask Lord Dog to paw it. That way, it would definitely break. You, who had been silent, suddenly said coldly. Buffon was bewildered, then his eyes brightened. That's right. Lord Go's exquisite dog paw was so terrifying. It could smash the tribulation cloud with one paw. Slapping a cabbage would be like playing a game. Hence, Buffon's eyes turned, falling on Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree. Lord Go was bewildered, and the fur on his body seemed to explode. Don't mess around. Do you think the exquisite dog paw is a joke? Lord Go won't use it easily. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice arose. Looking at Lord Go's solemn face, Buffon nodded seriously. Then he raised his hand. One paw for a bowl of sweet and sour ribs. How about that? Does Lord Go look like a dog that will be easily tempted? One paw for a bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs. How about it? Why didn't you say so earlier? Deal. Chapter 9:14. Hearing Lord Go's words, the surrounding people were all speechless. What happened to his moral integrity? Lord Go, where's the moral integrity that you've kept for so many years? A bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs is enough to throw away your moral integrity? Buffon, on the other hand, was not surprised at all. Buffon was well aware of Lord Go's obsession with sweet and sour dragon ribs. If one bowl wasn't enough, then 2. Buffon was surprised that Lord Go agreed so quickly. Of course, Lord Go didn't know that Buffon had looked down on him. Otherwise, if Lord Go knew that his paw could be exchanged for another bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs, he would probably cry. However, at this moment, Lord Go didn't know anything. His heart didn't waver, and he even wanted to laugh. Buffon held the bag of cabbages in his hand. The cabbages inside had begun to change color. The abyssal chili sauce mixed with other sauces had formed a juicy aroma that began to seep into the cabbages. However, according to Buffon's perception, the pressure on the bag wasn't enough. He needed another paw. With the addition of Lord Go's paw, the dish would be complete. Lord Go strode out of the restaurant with elegant cat-like steps, walking to the front of the crowd. Buffon boy, do you really want Lord Go to use his exquisite dog paw? With a single swipe of his claws, this thing might really break. Lord Go looked at Buffon, his magnetic and gentle voice resounding. Lord Go was full of confidence in his paw. There was nothing that he couldn't solve with one paw. It was just a broken bag. That idiot Hades couldn't break it, but it didn't mean that Lord Go couldn't. Don't break it. Just control it. Bufong looked at Lord Dog's small, exquisite, and unassuming paw, and he felt a little guilty in his heart. The Lord Go's claws were pretty awesome. Therefore, Bufong did not dare to guarantee anything. Naturally, Lord Go rolled his eyes. Bufong didn't say anything. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he casually threw the bag of cabbages in his hand away. The bag floated in the air, and the soup inside seemed to be boiling. Looking at the bag, Lord Go narrowed his eyes. In the next instant, it stretched out its exquisite dog paw towards the cabbage sack in the air. Everyone felt their hearts tremble. Then, a rumble resounded in their ears. A deafening boom rang out. The Lord Go's doggy paw seemed to shatter the void as it ruthlessly smashed the bag floating in the air. That palm was extremely terrifying. The old man looked at that palm, and his entire body shivered. The tuft of white hair on his head fluttered in the wind. Hades' era curled his lips. He had to admit that compared to this mangy dog's paw, his fist was indeed weak. However, that wasn't important. He was the lord of the netherworld, and he wasn't good at fighting and killing. Boom! The sound of explosions resounded unceasingly. The Lord Go's paw ruthlessly smashed on the bag, causing it to let out a violent roar in the air. Then, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the bag shot out, speeding away. In the blink of an eye, it became a black dot. Bufong's face stiffened. Expressionlessly, he looked at the bag that was sent flying by the paw, and the corners of his mouth twitched. The Lord Go retracted his exquisite doggy paw, sticking out his tongue and licking his lips. With a trace of loneliness in his eyes, he looked at the crowd with a trace of invincibility. Then he shook his doggy butt, wagged his tail, and strode like a cat back into the restaurant. Lying under the path understanding tree, he looked at the scene with a lonely face. Bufong was a little speechless. He had been busy for half a day, and this black dog had actually sent the bag flying with a single paw. If someone else picked it up, wouldn't this dish, which he had worked so hard on for half a day, fly away? Bufong took a deep breath. The vermilion robe on his body fluttered even though there was no wind. His figure instantly soared into the sky, turning into a stream of light as he dashed toward the direction where the bag had been sent flying. Not long after, Bufong flew back. Using his extreme speed, he quickly brought back the bag that had been sent flying. Gurgle, gurgle. In the bag, the boiling sensation became more intense, and the soup seemed to be about to burst the bag. The soup and the cabbage began to mix. Bufong, young man, can this really be a dish? Can this thing be eaten? Hades' era looked at the bag, his face puzzled. Of course it can be eaten. Moreover, it's a delicacy. Bufong looked at Hades, answering the latter's question seriously. Hades pouted his lips, showing that he didn't believe it. Although the cabbage was in the bag, it had to bear such a great force. It should have been smashed. How could it be eaten? The taste of the cabbage must be terrible. The old man rubbed the tuft of white hair on his head. His thoughts were the same as Hades' heiress. Chu Changsheng was wearing a long robe, which he had prepared at all times. After all, after each transformation, his clothes would burst. Chu Changsheng didn't understand Bufong's behavior. He used to be the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, and he had seen thousands of cooking methods. However, he had never seen such a strange cooking method. Putting the ingredients in the bag and using a great force to strike it such a dish. Could it be eaten? Not only them, but all the people around them also felt that this was a joke. Even if it could be eaten, it would be super disgusting. Someone thought. The people around whispered, looking at Bufong with strange eyes. Innovation always came with doubts, and Bufong was a person who didn't care about doubts. He cooked his dishes, and no matter how others doubted him, as long as it was done, people would eat it. Bufong was that confident. Bufong grabbed the bag in his hand. The ingredients inside were rolling, and they could occasionally see some cabbage. Under the gazes of the people around, Bufong gently tossed the bag up. Everyone was bewildered. Again? Do you want to smash it again? What is Ownerbu doing? Is he doing a circus? After smashing it so many times, I'm afraid the ingredients inside are rotten. The surrounding people discussed animatedly, and all of them revealed doubts. Hades' era and the others' gazes followed the bag that Bufang tossed up. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Bufang gently patted the bag. Time and air seemed to freeze at this moment. In the eyes of the people, it seemed like Bufang was gently stroking the bag, which was different from the others' fierce attacks. Owner Boo's gentleness made many people uncomfortable. Buzz. A moment later, that transparent bag suddenly bloomed with a dazzling golden light. The light was dazzling and resplendent, and it caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, made a sound of surprise. He raised his dog head, looking over in surprise. The eyes of Hades' era and the others shrank. The golden light gradually became gentle, like a layer of mist winding around the bag. The ingredients in the bag stabilized, no longer boiling. Gently, the bag with the cabbage fell into Bufang's hand. The orange-yellow juice was calm and peaceful, and the cabbage inside had become a little rosy. It didn't look as fresh as before, but it had a unique charm. Owner Bu, it's done? Chu Changsheng looked at Bufang, who had a satisfied face, and he couldn't help but ask. Bufang looked at Chu Changsheng, nodding. Then he tore open the opening of the bag. A unique, pungent smell immediately drifted out from the bag. The pungent smell contained a hint of vegetable sourness. Just a whiff of it would cause one to involuntarily salivate. Gulp. Many people smelled that smell, and their mouths began to drool. Their eyes were filled with surprise. It didn't have the thick aroma of Owner Boo's other dishes, but the sour taste of this vegetable was also unique. It actually had a special attractive feeling, and people couldn't help but want to taste it. Bufang didn't care much about the curiosity of the people around him. He was also very curious. It was the first time he used this cooking method, so he didn't know how it would taste. Spicy kimchi. It should be good, right? Bufang muttered in his heart. At this moment, the system didn't give him any judgment. Shaking the bag in his hand, Bufang stretched out his thumb and index finger, reaching into the bag and taking out a yellow-green kimchi. The juice dripped down the kimchi, and the sweet and sour smell became even thicker. It made people salivate, and they couldn't help but gulp. This thing can be eaten? Hades' era opened his eyes wide, smacking his lips as he asked. Of course it can be eaten. The taste should be pretty good, Bufang answered seriously. The people around him took a deep breath, and the air was filled with the sweet and sour smell. Under the gazes of the people around him, Bufang raised his head and stuffed that piece of kimchi into his mouth. Crunch, crunch, it wasn't as rotten as he imagined. Instead, it was a little crispy. Because the surface was stained with the juice, it became a little soft and mushy. However, the nature of the kimchi was very crispy. After chewing for a while, the sour and spicy taste instantly burst out in his mouth. Bufang's eyes instantly widened, and his mouth couldn't stop chewing. The kimchi, which was emitting a faint radiance, entered his mouth. The sweet, sour, and spicy taste burst out at the same time, causing the pores on his body to shrink and his hair to stand on end. It's unexpectedly good. Delicious. Bufang chewed on this piece of kimchi, and his mouth was filled with the sour and spicy taste. After eating it, Bufang felt as though there were fine beads of sweat on the tip of his nose. Bufang, boy, how is it? Is it really delicious? Hades' era couldn't help but ask as he stared at Bufang with saliva dripping from his mouth. As Bufang chewed, he looked at Hades' era and didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to chew. At the same time, he closed his eyes and felt the food glide through his mouth, down his throat, and into his stomach. It seems to be really delicious. The old man pulled on a tuft of his white hair and sniffed the fragrance in the air. His heart couldn't help but be moved, and he was extremely shocked. After waiting for a while, the system still didn't give an evaluation. Bufang was a little surprised. Could it be that the system was also shocked by his unique cooking method? Without an evaluation, Bufang didn't mind. Looking at Hades' era's expectant face, Bufang took out another piece of kimchi from the bag. He passed the kimchi to Hades' era and said, "Try it." Hades' era was stunned, and in the next moment, tears welled up in his eyes. He didn't expect that Hades' era, would receive such treatment one day. Feeling touched, he received the kimchi from Bufang, and Hades' era impatiently stuffed the whole piece of kimchi into his mouth. However, as soon as the kimchi entered his mouth, Hades' era's entire body froze on the spot. Looking at Hades' era's expression, Bufang suddenly twitched his slightly red and swollen lips. A piece of kimchi made Bufang feel as though his lips were on fire. After all, a big spoon of abyssal chili sauce was added. Chapter 9:15. The most frightening thing was that the air suddenly became quiet. Everybody was looking at Hades' era, who had swallowed the entire sour, spicy kimchi that Bufang had given him. Then his entire body froze on the spot, maintaining the posture of swallowing the kimchi. Everybody looked at Hades' era's face, which had gradually turned into the color of a pig's liver. They couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. So, it's like that. This so-called kimchi is so disgusting. Look at Master Era's face. It's like a monkey's butt. So scary. Luckily, we didn't eat it. The surrounding people were pointing at Hades' era. The spiciness of a big spoon of abyssal chili sauce was enough to make ordinary people doubt their lives. Even Bufang and Hades' era were irritated by the spiciness. Their lips were red and swollen. Of course, if Bufang and Hades' era urged the true energy in their bodies, the spiciness wouldn't hurt them at all. However, if they did that, it wouldn't be fun at all. They had to urge their true energy to eat. It was really boring. The food in their mouths would taste like they were chewing wax. Under people's gazes, Hades' era closed his eyes. A crystal tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. Hades' era's lips became red and swollen at a speed naked eyes could observe. Bufang had some understanding of Hades' era. This fellow didn't really know how to eat spicy food. Although he liked to eat spicy strips and spicy blood lobster, his ability to eat spicy food was really weak. It could be seen from the speed at which he ate the spicy blood lobster. Wow, it's so scary. It's so disgusting that he's crying. Oh my God, we're lucky that we're not the ones eating it. I told you, how could a dish made with a fist taste good? When the surrounding people saw Hades' era cry, they all took in a breath of cold air. Chu Changsheng and the others felt that something was different. They thought that even if Owner Boo's dishes were bad, they wouldn't be so bad that they would cry. Ignoring everyone's emotions, Bufang looked at Hades' era with his swollen lips. The next moment, Hades opened his eyes and began to chew violently and quickly. The sound of his teeth colliding with the kimchi rang out incessantly. Crunch, crunch. Hades' era was both in pain and happiness. The sour and spicy taste of the kimchi made Hades' era's mouth unable to stop. The texture and spiciness it contained caused all the pores on his body to shrink and his cheeks to slightly sour. Although it was spicy, it was so spicy that it made people excited. It was so delicious that it made people cry. The kimchi seemed to have been smashed by many people's fists, so it could actually feel a huge impact. It also contained waves of energy. It seemed that when they were bombarding it, the energy that seeped out had mixed with the cabbage, making the taste of the kimchi even more enchanting. As Hades' era ate, he felt as though his mouth was about to explode. It was like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time was about to erupt. After chewing for a long time, the sour and spicy juice of the kimchi flowed in his mouth, and the sour and spicy taste permeated his mouth. Then he swallowed the kimchi. The burning sensation seemed to flow from his throat to his stomach. That kind of burning sensation made Hades' era involuntarily reach out his hand. His eyes were blurry as he caressed his cheeks and swollen lips. Oh, delicious! Hades' era's nostrils flared, and his eyes were blurry. It's delicious, right? After all, it's cooked with a unique method. If it's combined with some ingredients and good wine, it will be even more delicious. Bufang shook the kimchi in his hand, smiling as he spoke. It's just a little spicy, Hades' era said as he smacked his swollen lips. After saying that, Hades' era came over, his face full of smiles. However, if this kimchi lacks this spiciness, it won't have any taste. So, Bufang young man, why don't you give I another piece? I can still taste more. When the surrounding people heard this, they couldn't help but be speechless. In their hearts, they scolded. This guy was so shameless. The elder's heart was already itching. He looked at Bufang and said, "Little chef, give this old man a piece too." "Bufang, I want one too." Yu's pitch-black eyes stare at Bufang. She stuck out her slippery tongue and licked her red lips. Her beautiful face was filled with seriousness. Hua's triflower snake eyes turned, staring at Bufang. Without a doubt, what Hua meant was that he wanted one too. In the face of the expectant gazes of the crowd, Bufang earnestly sealed the bag. "No more, no more. There's still a few pieces of kimchi left. I still have some use for them." Bufang said solemnly. What use did Bufang have for them? Other than being eaten, what use did the kimchi have? The surrounding people all revealed a trace of puzzlement. However, they couldn't figure it out, so they could only reveal a regretful expression. It was a pity that they couldn't enjoy the taste of the kimchi. The elder was so angry. He pulled a tuft of white hair on his head, gritting his teeth. As the first valley master of the Valley of Gluttony, he could eat whatever he wanted to eat. However, today he had suffered many losses at the hands of this little chef. Whatever he wanted to eat, he couldn't. That kind of anger made the elder feel that the tuft of white hair on his head was almost bald. You glanced at Bufang, her eyes extremely deep. Knowing that there was no more to eat, Hua sighed regretfully. He turned around, intending to return to the restaurant. Bufang young man, since you don't want to let us eat, we'll make it ourselves." Suddenly, Hades Era placed his hands on his waist, looking at Bufang. His sausage-like mouth cracked open, revealing a complacent smile. Bufang was stunned, and the surrounding people were also stunned. "What do you mean?" Bufang furrowed his brows, asking suspiciously. "I can make my own kimchi. Find a sturdy bag, then put in the cabbage, put in the seasoning, and use all your strength to pat it. Right? Such a simple thing. With I's wisdom, how could I not be able to make it?" Hades Era laughed proudly, as if he was praising his own wisdom. The surrounding people's eyes lit up. Although they felt that something was wrong, it was very reasonable. That's right. Bufang had made this dish in front of them. There wasn't any complicated process, so they should be able to make it too. The elder pinched the tuft of white hair on his head, his eyes bright. He felt that his tuft of white hair was saved. Bufang was speechless. What Hades Era said was very reasonable, and he actually had no words to refute it. However, he still felt that there was something strange about it. With a swoosh, everyone who had surrounded the restaurant dispersed, returning to their own homes to prepare to make kimchi. Hades Era excitedly greeted Bufang, then turned around and left, go to the various big restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony to ask for ingredients and sauce. Hades Era originally planned to ask for it from Bufang, but he changed his mind. He had already stolen Bufang's secret recipe and technique to make kimchi, so asking for ingredients from others was too cruel. He, Hades Era, was a merciful person. Hence, Hades Era went to visit other restaurants. Of course, Hades was also clear that with Bufang's stingy character, wanting to get ingredients from Bufang was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After everyone left, although Bufang felt a little strange in his heart, he didn't care too much. After shrugging his shoulders, he turned around and went back into the restaurant. You naturally wouldn't mix with them. When it came to culinary skills, she only trusted Bufang. She only knew how to eat. Asking her to cook, no way. As for Hua, this girl narrowed her eyes. Her triflower snake eyes turned, and her figure turned into a ray of light, disappearing into the distance. Returning to the kitchen, Bufang took out the kimchi from a bag and placed it into a porcelain bowl. The entire kitchen was instantly filled with the smell of kimchi. Kimchi was the best appetizer for a meal, as it was both appetizing and delicious. Moreover, kimchi paired with good wine was also a kind of enjoyment. Eating a mouthful of kimchi and drinking a mouthful of wine, the sour and spicy taste, mixed with the mellow fragrance of the wine, was absolutely intoxicating. If the kimchi was paired with many other ingredients and stir-fried together, it would also enhance the taste of the dish, creating an extremely delicious dish. The Divine Spirit Realm test has ended. Dish: sour and spicy kimchi. After the system's evaluation, it is rated as high grade. Congratulations to the host for passing the Divine Spirit Realm test. Just as Bufong took out his kitchen knife, preparing to cook a dish with kimchi, the system's solemn and serious voice rang out in his head. Regarding this, Bufong wasn't too surprised. The kitchen knife in his hand only paused for a moment, and he let out a light breath. Then, everything went back to normal. This kimchi still had many shortcomings, and Bufong felt that he could still improve it. In the Valley of Gluttony, Hades' era's figure rapidly shot out, and soon he saw the restaurant. As the Noodle King restaurant was bustling with business, Hades' era strode into the restaurant. When Ouyang Chunfeng saw Hades' era, he personally came out to welcome him with a face full of respect. In the Valley of Gluttony, there was no one who didn't know Hades' era's identity. He was a big shot. No one dared to offend this kind of big shot. No matter which restaurant he went to, he would be treated as a distinguished guest. Hades' era's sausage lips were red and swollen. He was very satisfied with Ouyang Chunfeng's performance. Hades' era, was just that noble. I didn't come to your restaurant to make things difficult for you. I just want to borrow some ingredients, Hades' era said with his red and swollen lips. Ouyang Chunfeng respectfully bowed, his face filled with a gentle smile. However, when Hades' era said he wanted to borrow ingredients, he was slightly stunned. Borrow ingredients? What the hell? Could it be that this lord also wanted to learn how to cook? It couldn't be. Besides eating, this lord also knew how to cook. However, Ouyang Chunfeng was, after all, the Noodle King. His heart did not waver, and he continued to smile warmly. After asking about the ingredients that Hades' era needed, he ordered his men to prepare them. 1 cabbage, the juicy kind, and chili sauce. I don't have Bufong's secret chili sauce, so I'll use your secret chili sauce. And a little wine. And Hades' era counted with his fingers, listing the ingredients. Ouyang Chunfeng listened to the ingredients, and his gentle face revealed a confused expression. He had no idea what these ingredients were for. Soon, the ingredients were brought over. Lord Era, this jar of chili sauce is our Noodle King restaurant's secret chili sauce. It's very spicy, and I hope that you will use it wisely. Ouyang Chunfeng solemnly handed the chili sauce to Hades' era. Regarding this, Hades' era patted his chest, assuring that he would not put too much chili sauce in it. Carrying a big pile of ingredients, Hades' era looked at the curious Noodle King, Ouyang Chunfeng. Suddenly, his eyes rolled, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. Young man, do you want to see I's exquisite cooking? This is what I secretly learned from Bufong. Hades' face did not blush, and his heart did not beat fast. He said innocently, "Is this really okay?" Noodle King Ouyang Chunfeng's eyes brightened. It turned out that he had secretly learned it from owner Bu. That would be interesting, and he was looking forward to it. Seeing the Noodle King's support, Hades' era laughed, and he started to cook in the restaurant. The customers in the Noodle King restaurant all gathered around curiously. No one knew where Hades' era found a bag. Although this bag was not as transparent as Bufong's bag, it was very sturdy. It was made from the skin of a spirit beast. After breaking the cabbage and stuffing it into the bag, Hades' era opened the jar. After hesitating for a while, he poured the whole jar of chili sauce into the bag. He poured half a bottle of wine, adding some seasonings and some other ingredients that he thought should be added. In the end, Hades' era endured the pain and took out a chili strip, cutting off half of it and stuffed it into the bag. The crowd looked at Hades' era with a dumbfounded face. Was he cooking? Noodle King Ouyang Chunfeng watched, his face expressionless. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Indeed, after Hades' era had prepared all the ingredients, he rubbed his hands, closed the bag, and scanned the crowd. Now, it's time to witness a miracle. Hades' era laughed, rubbing his hands together. Then he raised his hand. Ouyang Chinfeng's eyes shrank when he saw that. His heart almost stopped, and the bad premonition became stronger. Chapter 9:16. In the center of the gluttony god's building. Xiaoyu was a little bored as she sat on it, swinging her cute little feet. She wore a long robe, the hem of which hung on the ground. When she walked, it looked like she was sweeping the floor. This was the exclusive robe of the Valley of Gluttony's Valley Master. Because Xiaoyu was really too small, she could only wear it like this. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed, and a petite figure suddenly appeared outside the gluttony god's building. Xiaoyu turned her head to look and immediately cheered. She jogged all the way, but after 2 steps, because of the long robe, she stepped on the long hem of the robe, and her body fell to the ground with a thud. However, Xiaoyu did not care at all. She got up from the ground, wiped her nose, and ran to the window, opening it. Flowery jumped into the room through the window and carefully hugged Xiaoyu. Then, she started talking nonstop. Xiaoyu seemed to understand Hua's mysterious language, nodding continuously. The more Hua talked, the more excited Xiaoyu became. Really? Big Brother Bufong taught you how to cook? Xiaoyu said with her big eyes. Hua's triflower snake eyes moved, and he nodded seriously. Then let's go. Let me see what Big Brother Bufong taught you. That old man also said he would teach me how to cook, but every day, he only made me practice my knife skills and cutting vegetables. It's so boring. Xiaoyu got Hua's confirmation and was instantly happy. She pulled Hua's hand and walked to the kitchen of the Gluttony God's building. The Gluttony God's building was the biggest landmark of the Valley of Gluttony. After a disaster, the experts of the Valley of Gluttony strengthened and expanded the building. Today, the Gluttony God's building was bigger and more majestic. However, in terms of prosperity, it had to be the long street of the Gluttony God City. The long street was very crowded, with people coming and going. There were disciples from various holy lands, and there were also disciples from some forces from other places. Today, the Valley of Gluttony could be said to be the center of the Hidden Dragon continent. This was something that no one had expected. After all, the experts of the ruined prison were actually afraid of the Valley of Gluttony. Xiaoyu brought Hua to the kitchen of the Gluttony God's building. The kitchen of the Glutton God's building was huge, but it was empty and cold. There was no one else in the kitchen. Xiaoyu and Hua, the 2 tiny children, were walking around. Their footsteps reverberated in the air, sounding a little chilly. Xiaoyu brought Hua to the food storage. With a crash, the door to the food storage was pushed open by Hua's immense strength. Here, this is the ingredient warehouse of the Gluttony God's building. Take whatever you want. Xiaoyu really looked like a nouveau riche now, he said to her. There was an abundance of ingredients in the food storage. The meat was divided into bird-type spirit beast meat, walking beast meat, and fish meat. There were also many spirit herbs and vegetables. Xiaoyu originally thought that Hua would choose high-grade ingredients from the food storage, but she did not expect that Hua, who entered the food storage, would walk towards the vegetable section without a word. In the end, he came back with a huge, juicy cabbage. Xiaoyu was stunned. Could it be that Bufong taught Hua to eat cabbage? Is he trying to turn the meat Hua into a vegetarian Hua? Just this cabbage? It's so ordinary, Xiaoyu said. However, out of her expectation, Hua gave Xiaoyu a mysterious look and continued to fiddle around in the food storage. In just a short while, all the ingredients were prepared. Taking out a bag made of spirit bee skin, Hua poured the cabbage, ingredients, chili sauce, and other ingredients into the bag. It was like a big hodgepodge. Hua was already stupefied by what he saw. Tell me, all of this isn't real. Looking at the bulging spirit beast bag in Hua's hand, Xiaoyu did not know what to say. Placing the bag on the ground, Hua signaled Xiaoyu to take a step back. Xiaoyu was instantly stunned. Holding her long robe, she retreated. Hua took a deep breath. Then, with a roar, Hua's figure suddenly changed. He turned into a giant, 7-colored sky-devouring python that was a few meters long. The snake raised its tail and fiercely swung its tail at the spirit beast pouch below, whipping it towards the pouch. Xiaoyu was so frightened that her whole body shivered. What is Little Flower doing? Next, it's time to witness a miracle. Hades' era rubbed his hands, his face full of excitement. As someone who had tasted Bufong's sour and spicy kimchi, his heart's anticipation for the kimchi was stronger than anyone else's. Ouyang Qinfeng had a bad premonition in his heart. From the way Hades' era poured the whole jar of chili sauce in a bag, he could tell something bad would definitely happen next. Indeed, Hades' era took a deep breath. Under everyone's doubtful gaze, he actually raised his hand. Thick nether energy gathering on Hades' era's palm, as if it had turned into a long snake that coiled around him. Hades' era's action made everyone's heart tremble. Their faces instantly changed. What was this guy trying to do? Noodle King Ouyang Qinfeng's mouth twitched. Looking at this posture, was Lord Ha planning to slap him? Slap him? If he slapped him, the result would be unimaginable. No. Lord Ha, please have mercy. Noodle King Ouyang Qinfeng couldn't bear it anymore. He raised one hand. His nostrils flared as he shouted to stop him. However, at this moment, Hades' era didn't care about what Ouyang Qinfeng said. His face was full of excitement. His swollen lips seemed to be shining. Don't talk. Look at me quietly. I want to create a miracle. What you need to do is to appreciate the miracle. Ouyang Qinfeng was dumbstruck. Appreciate the miracle. I'm afraid he was admiring a weirdo. The surrounding people all exclaimed in surprise. Lord Ha really planned to slap him. If he really slapped him, the bag would break. No one knew what would happen. Noodle King Ouyang Qinfeng's instinct told him that he had to stop him. However, facing Hades' era, he didn't have the guts to stop him. He could only watch Nether King Erha slap him with an excited look on his face. Nether energy twirled around him. With a slap, the spirit beast bag bore Hades' era's slap. Everybody's heart was in their throats. They watched as Hades' era's palm got closer to the bag. Ouyang Qinfeng's face looked like he had nothing left to live for. Finally, amidst Hades' era's wild laughter, he slapped. Delicious hot and sour kimchi. Come out. Puff. A muffled sound rang out. The sound in the air disappeared. Suddenly, it was quiet. There was only a muffled sound, and the sound of gushing water could be heard. As expected, Hades' era's slap broke the bag. With a puff, it burst like a fart. It was filled with ingredients and sauces that gushed out. It gushed out in all directions in an orderly manner. It was like a miracle. Hades' era was the first to be hit. He was drenched. The sauce splashed all over his face, and there was even a piece of dried cabbage leaf on his head. An awkward feeling flowed in Hades' era's heart. The script wasn't supposed to be like this. Everybody was speechless as they looked at Hades' era. Their faces were dull. Above their heads, there was a piece of cabbage leaf. The air was filled with a thick, sour, and spicy smell. It was the smell of vinegar from Ouyang Qinfeng's secret sauce. As for why he added vinegar, perhaps it was because Hades' era wanted to experience the sour taste that made his teeth go soft. Ouyang Qinfeng looked around. Looking at the sauce and cabbage that splashed all over the restaurant because of the explosion, he felt as if an invisible arrow had stabbed his chest. He wanted to vomit blood. Ahaha, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Do you feel like you're witnessing a miracle? Hades' era awkwardly removed the piece of cabbage leaf from his face. Then, he opened his arms, talking to the crowd. Such a spectacular scene. It's a miracle, right? Ouyang Qinfeng felt as if another arrow had pierced into his chest. What a surprise, what a surprise, what a freaking. What a weirdo. If Ouyang Qinfeng could defeat Hades' era, he would definitely choose to fight Hades' era with his life. The entire noodle house was filled with the sour and spicy smell. A series of screams resounded, and the diners ran out crazily. Some people didn't know whether to cry or laugh, feeling helpless toward the unreliable Sir Ha. It was really a miracle to be splashed all over. Hades' era was so embarrassed. He had used very little strength, but why couldn't the bag bear it? It must be the bag's problem, not his strength. All right, Ouyang young man, this is I's gift for you. I wish you a prosperous business. I will go first. Hades' era didn't have the face to stay there anymore. He said to Noodle King Ouyang Chenfeng, who was on the verge of going berserk. Then his figure flashed, disappearing from his spot. Noodle King Ouyang Chenfeng's shoulders shivered for a while. Then he forced a smile. He actually believed that Sir Ha could cook. When did he become so naive? He had to bear the sins he had done, even with tears in his eyes. In life, he had to learn to bear it. In the kitchen of the gluttony god's building, with a soft, muffled sound, Xiaoyu was drenched. The sour and spicy taste splashed all over her body. The long robe of the Valley of Gluttony's Valley Master was covered in a large puddle of soup. Xiaoyu was a little speechless. Was this the dish the Hua had promised her? The one that Big Brother Bufong had taught her? One must have learned bad things from Sir Ha. He actually learned to lie through his teeth, to think that she had trusted him so sincerely in the beginning. Now that she was drenched, it was really embarrassing. Hua's figure turned into his human form. He glanced at Xiaoyu with his tri-flower snake eyes, then covered his face. Without saying a word, he turned and ran. Xiaoyu looked helplessly at Hua running away. She smiled bitterly and started to clean up the kitchen. Hua returned to the Taodai restaurant. With a swoosh, she turned into a stream of light and ran to Lord Go's side. She grabbed the dog's tail and did not move. Lord Go was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, he felt his tail being grabbed. He opened his eyes and glanced at the little girl. You dare to grab Lord Go's tail? You little girl, do you want to go to heaven? Hua covered her face, stunned. In the next moment, Hua was hung up on the path understanding tree by Lord Go with an adorable face. The lower half of Hua's body was tied up by a thick hemp rope made of nether energy, hanging upside down on the path understanding tree. The confused and innocent Hua felt that her life was gloomy. She felt that cooking would never be her job. She only needed to be responsible for eating like Sister Nethery. At the same time, in the Valley of Gluttony, every restaurant was screaming. All kinds of muffled sounds that sounded like farting echoed. The sour and spicy taste spread, filling the entire Valley of Gluttony. Hades' era laughed dryly as he ran out of another restaurant. This time, there was no restaurant that could accommodate him. All of a sudden, Hades' era's eyes turned, his gaze falling on the gluttony god's building in the distance. Xiaoyu, that little one seems to have a kitchen. This time, I can definitely create a miracle. However, when he found Xiaoyu and said that he wanted to create a miracle for her, Xiaoyu glared at him and chased him out of the gluttony god's building with a kitchen knife. Helplessly, Hades' era had to return to Bufong's Taodai restaurant. He did not understand why he cannot do it. Wasn't it just cooking pickles? What was so difficult about that? Back in the restaurant, Hades' era was bewildered because in the restaurant, everyone was sitting around the table, looking at the kitchen with anticipation. And Ai Yin, Chu Changsheng, the mangy dog, and that shameless old man with a tuft of white hair on top of his head all had a look of anticipation on their faces. Hades' era was bewildered. Then, from the kitchen, a wave of thick aroma of food wafted out. This aroma had a hint of pickles. Nether King Air Ha's whole body quivered, and he eagerly rushed into the restaurant. Leave some for I. Chapter 9:17. After a hearty meal, the dishes and cups were all over the place. Hades' era finally gave in. He felt that cooking wasn't suitable for him. What he was best suited to do was to drink like a mangy dog, eat nonstop, although that kimchi looked very easy to make. After so many failures, Nether King Erha also understood that there were definitely many problems that he didn't understand and couldn't solve. As for what those problems were, Hades' era was too lazy to think about it. He chose to give up. Inside the Taodai restaurant, everybody rubbed their bellies. Imitating Bufong, they curled up on their chairs, gently exhaling. They all looked lazy. The night was getting darker. 2 crescent moons hung high in the sky, radiating cold light. It seemed to cover the entire earth with a thin layer of gauze. In a restaurant, after tasting Bufong's food, the people reluctantly bid farewell to Bufong, then left the restaurant. Bufong stretched his waist, yawning. It was a tiring day, and his body was a little tired. And I Yin went upstairs. And I Yin went back upstairs. And Chu Changsheng also went back to his room to sleep. After Bu Fong closed the restaurant's door, he turned around and went to the kitchen. Gently exhaling, Bu Fong's mind flickered, and the energy on his body began to surge. The velvet rope that tied his hair naturally snapped, and his hair scattered everywhere. Above his head, the soul ladder emerged. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 9 steps of the soul ladder congregated, turning into a divine altar. Bu Fong lifted his head. He could feel the energy in his body unceasingly scattering, gathering toward that divine altar. In his spirit sea, his mental energy boiled. The gold divine dragon tool, soul, bared its fangs and brandished its claws, crossing the vast sky. His mental energy seemed to be burning, and energy quickly gathered on the divine altar. Shortly after, a quietly burning divine flame emerged. It was the mental flame, the divine flame with terrifying energy. The divine flame burning on the divine altar meant that Bu Fong had successfully entered the divine spirit realm. Now, Bu Fong's combat power had been greatly improved. Bu Fong's spirit sea expanded once again, and his mental power became even stronger and more terrifying. After the breakthrough, Bu Fong opened his eyes. There seemed to be a divine light blossoming in his eyes, like a sharp, long sword that wanted to tear the sky apart. I've finally broken through. Bu Fong stretched out his hand, looked at his palm, and couldn't help but sigh. After completing the Divine Spirit Realm's assessment, the current him had also broken through to the Divine Spirit Realm, becoming one of the top people in this part of the Hidden Dragon continent. After stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm, Bu Fong's heart finally calmed down a lot. Because only by stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm did he have the qualifications to come into contact with the Heaven Chief Realm. Before this, although Bu Fong's combat strength was very strong and his mental strength was also very terrifying, he was still only at the Divine Soul Realm. His cultivation was insufficient, so Bu Fong was destined to be somewhat limited. Stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm was tantamount to breaking through the shackles. It made Bu Fong's heart calm down a lot. Bu Fong's breakthrough was simple, and it didn't cause the slightest ripple. His breakthrough wasn't as powerful as N.I. Yan's, and he didn't light up 5 divine flames at once. After lighting up 1 divine flame, Bu Fong's aura began to converge, gradually dispersing. With a flicker of his mind, Bu Fong's figure entered the heaven and earth farmland. Time flew unceasingly. It had been a long time since the Hidden Dragon continent had fallen. The Hidden Dragon Royal Court was now completely in ruins. Broken fences and broken walls filled the once prosperous and powerful royal court. In this place, one couldn't see the creatures of the Hidden Dragon continent. There was only nether energy twirling around, and only terrifying demonic shadows could be seen. Several hundred miles away from the royal court's holy land, there was a towering mountain. This mountain was really tall. Black clouds floated halfway up the mountain, and the trees on it were all black. It seemed that because of the nether energy, they had become pitch black. On the mountain, experts from the ruined prison would appear from time to time. A majestic white bone palace sat on the peak of the mountain. The sky above the mountain was covered with layers of black clouds, bringing with it a huge pressure that made people's breathing become hurried. Inside the palace, 8 figures were arrogantly sitting on the stone chairs. These 8 figures weren't strangers. They were the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison. The leader was the demon king of the Demon Eye clan. At this moment, his entire body was emitting a terrifying aura, and a pitch-black energy was moving in his demon eyes. His eyes scanned the entire place. Eventually, he slowly opened his mouth. Our ruined prison has invaded the Hidden Dragon continent for almost 2 years. But what have we done? Hiding on one side of this continent, and the other side still doesn't belong to us. This isn't the purpose of our invasion. The Demon King of the Demon Eye clan said. That's right. Back then, we invaded to find the strongest Demon King. Under the leadership of the strongest Demon King, we swept across the entire hidden dragon continent. However, the strongest demon king only brought us to hide in a corner. 10,000 years have passed, and the strongest demon king isn't the one that shook the entire ruined prison. He isn't the strongest demon king that was so domineering that he wanted to invade Earth Prison. The voice of the demon clan's demon king was very magical. At times it was high, and at times it was suppressed. It stirred up the emotions to the fullest. Under his control, the emotions of the experts of the ruined prison boiled up. Just a mere valley of gluttony blocking our way. It's really too disgusting. What we need to do is to crush this disgusting thing. The demon clan's demon king said domineeringly. He had waited for this chance for too long. The strongest demon king was in seclusion, and today his chance had come. In more than a year, under the orders of the strongest demon king, the experts of the ruined prison hadn't attacked the other regions of the Valley of Gluttony. To the demon kings that had rushed over from the ruined prison, this was simply too uncomfortable. What they needed was to conquer, not to submit. They didn't know what the strongest demon king was afraid of. Back then, those experts who had faced the Valley of Gluttony together with the strongest demon king didn't say anything. Hence, many of the demon kings were a little irritable. Today, under the leadership of the demon clan's demon king, this irritation was completely ignited. Destroy the Valley of Gluttony. Conquer the entire hidden dragon continent. The experts of the ruined prison waved their weapons, roaring angrily. Their roars instantly reverberated around the entire mountain. Only the experts who had faced the Valley of Gluttony together with the strongest demon king shook their heads helplessly. These experts didn't know anything about the enemy's experts. Outside the Valley of Gluttony, the current Valley of Gluttony was the gathering place of all the holy lands. The defensive power inside was extremely strong. The Gluttony God City, which originally didn't have city walls, still didn't have city walls. However, around the Valley of Gluttony, there were many simple cities rising from the ground. These cities were built by the experts of the Holy Lands. The city walls were tall, blocking the strong enemies. After all, with so many experts from the Holy Lands pouring in, it caused the population of the Valley of Gluttony to increase in an instant. Once the population increased, there wasn't enough space. Hence, a few more cities were built. In the sky, black clouds rolled and surged over. A tall and sturdy expert stepped on the air, his back wrapped in majestic black clouds. When a guard saw this scene, his eyes instantly shrank, and the alarm rang out. In the Valley of Gluttony, the saint's sovereign expert turned into a stream of light, shooting up into the sky. He landed on the city wall, his gaze fixed on the expert in the distance. That's the demon clan's demon king. The saint's sovereign experts sucked in a breath of cold air. Didn't the strongest demon king say that the experts of the ruined prison weren't allowed to attack the Valley of Gluttony and invade the south of the Valley of Gluttony? Now that the demon clan's demon king had appeared here, what did it mean? Not only the demon clan's demon king, but there were also black clouds shrouding over from other directions of the Valley of Gluttony. One after another, demon king experts stepped on the air. The 8 demon king experts quickly landed outside the Valley of Gluttony. The nether energy that filled the sky lingered, causing all the experts of the Holy Lands to feel nervous. The great path of heaven collapsed. Could the demon king experts finally enter the hidden dragon continent as they pleased? The saint sovereign experts looked at the figures that made them feel fear, and they couldn't help but feel bitter in their hearts. The demon king's power was really much stronger than theirs. One strongest demon king was enough to make them despair. Now that so many demon kings had appeared, they didn't even have the slightest chance. The 8 great demon kings landed in front of the Valley of Gluttony. Out of everyone's expectations, they didn't directly attack. Instead, they faintly smiled as they looked at the saint sovereigns. Several thousand miles behind the 8 great demon kings was the great army of the ruined prison. This great army gathered, and the nether energy soared to the sky, turning into monstrous black clouds that shrouded the sky. They had received the Demon King's order, so they weren't in a hurry to attack. Naturally, the strongest Demon King had a reason to be afraid. The 8 great Demon Kings wanted to enter the Valley of Gluttony to see what exactly made the strongest Demon King so afraid. Facing the 8 great Demon Kings' request to enter the Valley of Gluttony, the Saint Sovereigns naturally didn't agree. Currently, the Valley of Gluttony was the gathering place and base of the Holy Lands. If the 8 great Demon Kings wantonly slaughtered within, it would be a huge loss to the entire Holy Lands. However, who could stop the 8 great Demon Kings? Turning into 8 streams of light, the Holy Land's defense was smashed into pieces in an instant. The 8 great Demon Kings had disdainful laughter as they stepped into the Valley of Gluttony. The waves of the Sunset Lake rolled, and a Demon King walked on the waves. Standing in the middle of the lake, he let out a loud laugh. Water dragons twirled around his body. This was an expert of the demon frog race, and he had a strong ability to control water. Many Holy Lands experts who tried to stop him were scattered by the water dragons. The Saint Sovereigns suppressed their anger. They didn't think that the 8 great Demon Kings would actually cause trouble at the same time. Previously, with the strongest Demon King suppressing them, these fellows didn't dare to be presumptuous. Now that the strongest Demon King was in seclusion, these fellows couldn't help but want to make a move. Many Saint Sovereigns looked at each other, seeing the determination in each other's eyes. Facing the Demon Kings, they weren't completely defenseless. They still had the trump card that Owner Boo had provided. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, they couldn't use it. After all, there was only one trump card. Weak too weak. With this kind of power, I really don't know what the strongest Demon King is afraid of. Towards these ants, wouldn't it be better to just kill them directly? Why should we let them struggle at death's door? The Demon Eagle's Demon King shook his hooked nose, revealing a cold smile. His laughter seemed to have a magical power, causing the Holy Land's disciples' eardrums to swell in pain. The 8 great Demon Kings each had their own power. Once they entered the Valley of Gluttony, it was as if they wanted to flip the sky and earth. Gluttony God City, on the long street today, there were very few people on the long street. Everyone was hiding in the Gluttony Gods building square. The Demon Kings had invaded, and a great battle was about to break out. The weak ones were all hiding. There was no need to send themselves to death. The Demon Eyes Demon King clasped his hands, slowly walking on the long street. The fragrance that filled the air caused his 3 eyes to involuntarily narrow. Slowly walking, the Demon Eyes Demon King's 3rd eye suddenly opened, and a red light circulated within it. Buzz, the entire Valley of Gluttony seemed to appear in the Demon Eyes Demon King's mind. Tao Tai Restaurant with a creaking sound. The restaurant's door was instantly opened. A figure somewhat lazily pushed open the door, yawning as he stood at the entrance, twisting his waist. Bufong's eyes were hazy as he breathed in the fresh air. He stretched his waist and moved his body. A beautiful day had begun, and it would be another busy day. Suddenly, Bufong froze. He lightly exclaimed, because he realized that in front of him, the originally long queue had actually disappeared. In front of the restaurant, it was completely empty. A gust of wind blew past, sweeping up some dust and sand. It made Bufong, who was just about to start busying himself, feel a little awkward. The air suddenly exploded. The violent explosion gave the awkward Bufong a fright. Black energy rolled, and very quickly, in front of the restaurant's entrance, a thin figure slowly walked out from the black light. His 3 eyes were all emitting a bright light. The Demon Eyes Demon King clasped his hands, looking at Bufong, who was standing in the distance with hazy eyes. The corner of his mouth cracked, revealing a few sharp teeth. Just because of this little restaurant of yours, the strongest Demon King actually gave up on conquering the entire Hidden Dragon continent. Chapter 918. Just because of this restaurant of yours, the strongest Demon King gave up on conquering the entire Hidden Dragon continent. The demon-eyed Demon King looked at Bufong, who was standing at the entrance of the restaurant. The corners of his mouth opened, revealing a cold smile. That smile was filled with a chill that made one's heart tremble. Regarding this restaurant, the demon-eyed Demon King was actually not unfamiliar. Back then, when a wisp of his consciousness was attached to Amethyst Elder's body, he had seen this restaurant. However, as that wisp of his consciousness was completely torn apart by the strongest Demon King, the information regarding this restaurant completely disappeared. Today, the demon-eyed Demon King saw this restaurant once again. From the outside, there was nothing special about it. The demon-eyed Demon King did not know why the strongest Demon King would choose to retreat. Bufong looked at the demon-eyed Demon King indifferently. Three-eyed? So familiar. Back then, there was also an expert from the Demon Eye clan who attacked the Valley of Gluttony. However, that time, the four-eyed one seemed to have died tragically. Of course, back then, the aura of that four-eyed one was much weaker than this fellow in front of him. Early in the morning, the people in the queue were all gone, and a three-eyed one actually came. It seemed like it was this three-eyed one with a powerful aura that scared away his customers. Hence, when Bufong looked at this three-eyed one, his gaze was not too friendly. The other party came aggressively, using a questioning tone the moment he opened his mouth. Bufong rubbed his head, expressionlessly glancing at the other party. He was too lazy to answer the other party's question. Turning around, he planned to walk into the restaurant. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a violent explosion rang out. Bufong slightly froze, turning his head to look around. There was a terrifying aura rushing into the sky. The strength of each aura was not weaker than the demon-eyed Demon King in front of him. Now you understand. The strongest Demon King letting you guys go doesn't mean that we, the other Demon Kings, will let you guys go too. The demon-eyed Demon King indifferently said. The vertical eye on his forehead turned, suddenly widening. With a spin, a resplendent light blossomed within. In various places within the Valley of Gluttony, a great battle erupted. On the Sunset Lake, the Demon Frog's Demon King and the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign were fighting. The lake water constantly exploded and the waves rushed into the sky. The Rising Sun Saint Master walked the path of extreme yang. Every punch was like a scorching sun, burning and resplendent. However, the strength of the Demon Frog's Demon King was simply too strong. With just a thought, he would attract the water dragon to attack, forcing the Rising Sun Saint Master to retreat. Croak, too weak. Demon Frog Demon King laughed. The black shadow in the sky covered the sun. The Demon Eagle's Demon King spread its wings, and a dark whirlwind swept across, causing the sand and stones on the ground to fly, and the air to shatter. The Alcade's Sacred Lord's body swayed as she sent out many pieces of cloth. But under the sharp eagle claws, they were all torn to shreds. The battles in various places had all entered a crisis. The Demon Master experts completely suppressed the Saint Masters. Demon-eyed Demon King looked at Bufong with a ruminating gaze. This restaurant was the pillar of the Valley of Gluttony. He didn't believe that it could remain indifferent in such a dangerous situation. However, he was wrong. Bufong was really indifferent. Although he was a little surprised by the battles around him, Bufong didn't care too much. Giving the demon-eyed Demon King a look, he turned around and entered the restaurant. The demon-eyed Demon King felt that he was once again ignored. His face slightly stiffened, and then his anger soared to the heavens. Thinking back to Bufong's expressionless face, the demon-eyed Demon King felt as though he was being mercilessly mocked. He took a deep breath. In front of the demon eye, a blood-black energy ball gathered. He planned to destroy this restaurant with one move, completely shattering the pillar of the Valley of Gluttony and shattering the thoughts of the ants in the Hidden Dragon continent. Suddenly, his movements paused, because he realized that Bufong, who had originally entered the room, had walked out again. As expected, "You want to come and beg for mercy?" The demon-eyed demon king narrowed his eyes, smiling coldly. Unfortunately, it's too late, beg for mercy. Bufong indifferently looked at the demon-eyed demon king, not really understanding what the other party was talking about. In the sky, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared. Very quickly, there was a whistling sound that descended. The demon-eyed demon king froze. His figure appeared in the distance as though he had teleported, and the place where he was originally standing was smashed by a huge object, causing the ground to tremble. This is a papillion. When the demon-eyed demon king saw this huge object, his eyes shrank. Naturally, he was very familiar with the papillion. After all, letting the papillion carry the mandala tree's seed into the hidden dragon continent was a method that he had thought of. It was just that he did not understand why a papillion would descend from the sky. Bufong, young man, I have gone through untold hardships to find another papillion. Can I exchange it for a few chili strips? I's chili strips reserves have all been used up. On the papillion's body, a figure drilled out, leaping down and landing on the ground. The demon-eyed demon king looked at that elegant figure, and he was instantly slightly stunned. Such a familiar figure, as though he had seen it before, but he could not remember. Hades' era turned his head to look at the demon-eyed demon king, who had become vigilant, and said with a smile, "Oh, is there a guest?" Bufong clasped his hands, walking out of the restaurant, coming to the front of that huge papillion. He circled it once, and from time to time, he would even extend his hand and pat it. After Bufong touched it once, he said, "Not bad. The meat quality is very good. Making a papillion steak should be very fragrant. Oh, the figure is also not bad. Those female papillions should like it a lot." When the demon-eyed demon king heard these words, his face was stunned. Good meat quality, good figure. What exactly was this human thinking? Could it be that this guy was planning to eat the papillion? Impudent. The papillion is a creature of the netherworld. How can it be eaten by a lowly human like you? The demon-eyed demon king was enraged, explosively shouting. His aura rose, and nether energy appeared around his body. Savage. Suddenly, Hades' era glared and roared, causing the demon-eyed demon king's aura to deflate. The demon-eyed demon king stared blankly at Hades' era, not knowing what the other party was shouting about. Towards Hades' era, the demon-eyed demon king always felt a kind of uneasy familiarity. I can't even use a papillion to exchange for a few chili strips? Furthermore, when did you dare to speak on behalf of the netherworld? Hades' era said, covering half of his face with one hand. The demon-eyed demon king was stunned by these words. He almost choked on blood. Savage? Savage, your sister. The demon-eyed demon king was so angry that he was about to go crazy. Not allowing him to eat a papillion made him savage. He was the ruined prison's demon king, a peak expert of the ruined prison. Why couldn't he speak on behalf of the netherworld? Bufong shook his head, patting the huge papillion's body. Instantly, this papillion was kept into the heaven and earth farmland by him. Bufong, young man, you go in first. Leave a hot chili strip for I. After I deal with this three-eyed man, I'll come back to eat the chili strip. Hades' era flipped his elegant hair, saying to Bufong, "Hot chili strip?" The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched. With a shake of his hand, several chili strips appeared. Bufong released a wisp of mental energy, wrapping it around the chili strip, causing it to float in the air. After doing all this, Bufong did not even turn his head back as he entered the kitchen. Seeing this scene, Hades' era instantly became excited, unleashing his full power. Boom! Hades' era's figure rapidly dashed out, his speed as fast as lightning. Practically before the demon-eyed demon king could react, a slap landed on the other party's face. The demon-eyed demon king had a dumbfounded look on his face. Then he flew into a rage. After stabilizing his figure, the blood-black energy ball once again condensed on the vertical eye on his forehead, causing the air to boil. Die! A huge phantom of Hades instantly appeared behind Hades' era. That figure was tall, vast, and filled with an ancient and supreme aura. Its eyes were cold, as though it had seen through life and death. Once the phantom appeared, thunder rumbled in the sky. Puff! When the demon-eyed demon king saw this phantom, he almost choked to death on his own saliva. The energy ball in front of his forehead instantly leaked like a leaking balloon. You're the Lord of the Netherworld, Lord Hades? Hades' era indifferently looked at the demon-eyed demon king, arrogantly snorting. Then he raised a hand, and the phantom behind him also raised a hand. A finger pointed out, and a huge finger pressed toward the demon-eyed demon king. The demon-eyed demon king finally knew what that bad feeling of familiarity was. This guy was actually the Lord of the Netherworld, the boss of Earth Prison, Lord Hades. This kind of existence was actually willing to do hard labor in a restaurant, transporting ingredients. No wonder the strongest demon king did not dare to make a move against the Valley of Gluttony. You can't kill me. I'm the ruined prison's demon king. The demon-eyed demon king looked at the finger that was getting closer and closer to his body, instantly letting out a roar. So what if you're the ruined prison's demon king? Can I, Hades, kill a demon king? The deafening voice resounded, causing the demon-eyed demon king's heart to shrink. But after a long time, Hades' era sighed, pointing his finger down. The demon-eyed demon king felt as though he was being bombarded by a sea of nether energy, almost suffocating. His body was thoroughly cold. Hades' clothes-stripping finger, rip, his clothes exploded, and the demon-eyed demon king stood rooted to the ground. The clothes on his body disappeared, and his heart was completely bare. Hades did not kill him, but he stripped off all the clothes on his body. Ha ha! As expected, you don't dare to kill me. Earth Prison's Hades, the Hades who is just a figurehead, is nothing more than this. The demon-eyed demon king's vertical eye instantly widened, radiance rushing into the sky as he laughed loudly. You don't have the guts to kill me, because I'm a subordinate of the ruined prison's lord. Hades' era calmly looked at the demon-eyed demon king who was laughing crazily, his brows instantly furrowing. Your words stab my heart. The Nether King said indifferently. You stab my heart, which is equivalent to hurting me. I'm going to retaliate. Stab your sister. The demon-eyed demon king instantly froze. In the next instant, the demon-eyed demon king felt his vision blur, and it completely turned into darkness. Hades pointed his finger down again. Just this finger alone caused the demon-eyed demon king's body to explode. Boom! The phantom behind Hades dissipated. Looking at a scarlet eyeball flying out, the corner of his mouth twitched. Raising his head, he looked at the sky and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Turning around, he sighed. Shaking his head, his gaze was deep and melancholic as he walked towards the restaurant. Above the sky, the clouds twisted as though transforming into a huge eyeball. The eyeball turned, quietly dispersing. Hades entered the restaurant. Bufong lazily curled up on a chair. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, also calmly looked at Hades' era. What a joke. If it was me, Lord Go, I would have smacked that fool until not even dregs were left. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice rang out. Hades' era looked at Lord Go, took the spicy strip floating in the air, and held it in his mouth. You lazy dog, you're different from I, Hades' era said gloomily. I have a family to feed. How can a single dog like you compare? Lord Go expressionlessly looked at Hades' era, slowly raising his exquisite dog paw. The demon-eyed demon king didn't die, but he wasn't far from it. Hades' era exploded with one finger, leaving only a demon eye that carried his remnant soul and flew away. The other demon kings in the Valley of Gluttony also felt the rapidly weakening aura of the demon-eyed demon king, and they were all shocked. The demon kings furrowed their brows, planning to leave. But, you want to come and go as you please? Do you really think my hidden dragon continent is easy to bully? The heavenly secret saint Sovereign roared. Starlight circled around his body, and the star compass spread out. A goblet appeared in his hand, with star wine flowing in it. This was like a signal. almost all the saints' sovereigns took out their goblets. The Demon King experts were disdainful. The demon frog's demon king croaked, his demonic voice deafening. He exerted strength in his thighs, preparing to jump out of the valley of gluttony. However, the rising sun saint sovereign, who was fighting him, drank the wine in his cup in one gulp, roaring crazily. The clothes on his body exploded, and the rising sun saint sovereign's face was flushed. His aura exploded, suddenly multiplying several times. A wild roar. The demon frog's demon king, who had leaped up, instantly froze. The rising sun saint sovereign grabbed the thigh of the demon frog's demon king, forcefully pulling him down from the sky and smashing him into the sunset lake. The situation of the battlefield suddenly changed at this moment. Chapter 919. Boom! The lake water suddenly splashed, rushing into the sky. Then, the lake water that rushed into the sky instantly poured down, as if it was a heavy downpour. The rising sun saint sovereign floated in the air, his entire body scarlet red. Steam rose from his body. The steam rolled, and when the lake water landed on his body, it was instantly evaporated. So hot, but it feels so good. The rising sun saint sovereign opened his mouth, letting out a roar. His hair was like iron arrows, as if it wanted to pierce through the illusionary void. A golden ring appeared behind his head. Boom! Damn it, damn it, damn it! Rip it! Even an ant dares to fight back. The demon frog's demon king rushed out of the lake water, opening his mouth to let out a roar. His cheeks suddenly puffed up, and the water dragon around him spiraled. With a thought, the spiraling water dragon charged toward the rising sun saint sovereign to kill. The rising sun saint master let out a hearty laugh as he faced the move that had previously suppressed him to the point of being incomparably constrained. He punched out, and the scorching sun shone brightly. The water dragon instantly exploded. His feet stepped on the illusionary void, and the air exploded. His figure instantly appeared beside the demon frog's demon king. Owner Boo's Acheron helplessness wine has limited time. I have to finish this battle quickly. The rising sun saint sovereign's eyes were scarlet red, and steam spurted out from his nose. Boom! Boom! In the next instant, the rising sun saint sovereign seemed to have turned into a human-shaped fighting machine. The blazing sun fists continuously bombarded out. The demon frog's demon king simply could not block them, and he was continuously bombarded. His figure smashed into the lake water. The rising sun saint sovereign roared, also rushing into the lake like an enraged beast. The lake water exploded, continuously evaporating. Sunset lakeside, a giant crocodile crawled out with a panic-stricken face. Twisting its butt, it fled far away from the sunset lake. The wavering light saint sovereign elegantly gulped down Owner Boo's Acheron helplessness wine. Her white face instantly became red, and her eyes became blurry. Her red lips stretched out, licking her lips. Then, her figure swayed as she charged toward the demon eagle's demon king in the sky. Shwa shwa shwa. Streaks of silk threads pierced down from the void like long spears. The demon eagle's demon master, who was about to spread his wings and take a deep breath, was instantly entangled. The demon eagle demon king's eyes constricted as he let out a cry. In the next instant, he charged at Sacred Lord Alcade with extreme speed. A woman who had drunk alcohol was not afraid at all. Alcade's Sacred Lord's hand shook, and thousands of silk cloths fell down. Alcade's Sacred Lord stepped on the silk as if she was stepping on a rainbow and charged forward. The two of them engaged in a great battle. They were evenly matched. The saint sovereigns who should have been crushed seemed to have turned the tables at this moment. He was actually evenly matched with the demon masters and even directly crushed them. Very quickly, the demon masters also realized that something was wrong. The cultivation of these saint masters was continuously becoming stronger, and it made them feel a little strange. The demon eye's rapidly weakening aura also alarmed them. Therefore, many demon masters did not want to continue fighting and began to gradually leave the battlefield. The Saint Sovereigns were also helpless. Although they had drunk the Acheron helplessness wine, which could increase their battle power by several times, it was still a little difficult to make these demon masters stay. Moreover, if the other party wanted to leave, they could not make them stay. Some demon masters risked serious injuries to escape. The demon eye's demon masters' crushing defeat made these demon masters feel a sense of fear. Originally, when they came to attack the Valley of Gluttony, their hearts were a little afraid. After all, even the strongest demon master was defeated here. They naturally had to be careful. In the Tao Tai restaurant, Hades Era sullenly held a chili strip in his mouth as he swallowed and spat at the side. Lord Go snorted, turning his head and lying under the path understanding tree. Hua obediently sat, cross-legged, spiritual energy revolving around his body. Bufong young man, right now, those Saint Sovereigns in the Valley of Gluttony should have drunk your Acheron helplessness wine, and their battle power has increased. Those demon masters might be in some trouble. Although Hades Era was swallowing and spitting out the chili strip, he was also sensing the situation in the battlefield. Oh, and then, said Bufong, back then, those few cups of Acheron helplessness had indeed been exchanged for by these Saint Sovereigns. These Saint Sovereigns did not drink it back then, but instead, they drank it now during the great battle. Obviously, these Saint Sovereigns valued the explosive battle power effect of the Acheron helplessness wine. This made Bufong a little sad. The main point of his wine was not this effect, but the taste and deliciousness of the wine. Oh right, Bufong young man, I forgot to tell you. Those few demon masters in the ruin prison are mostly not bad ingredients. After all, demon master level ingredients are still quite rare. Hades Era leaned on the chair, holding a chili strip in one hand, letting it move in and out of his mouth. He seemed to remember something, turning to look at Bufong, who was lying on the chair leisurely. Bufong was bewildered. Demon master level ingredients? It sounded pretty good. Bufong blinked his eyes, looking at Hades Era. Hades Era smiled at Bufong with a gloomy face. Just now I got hurt, so I don't have any energy now. I just want to eat chili strips to relieve my worries. To this, Bufong was speechless, pouting his lips. Hurt? No. Energy? Only ghosts would believe your excuse. You're lazy, but you still have to find such an excuse. Bufong shook his head and looked at Lord Dog. Well, he saw that Lord Dog was snoring under the Path Understanding tree. He opened his mouth and smacked it, swallowing the words he was about to say. Forget it. I don't want to bother the Lord Go anymore. The Lord Go is probably irritated by the word single dog. Bufong stood up, walking to the door. Hades Era was curious. What did Bufong young man want to do? Chu Changsheng leaned against the wall. He was also a little curious. Although the battle outside was fierce, he knew he couldn't join it. When he reached the restaurant's entrance, he could still hear the continuous explosions. Bufong listened, but his face didn't change. He clasped his hands, walking down the stairs in front of the restaurant's entrance. He walked a few steps, then stood still. A moment later, Bufong closed his eyes. But in his head, his calm spirit sea boiled. The divine dragon roared, its roar echoing. With his body as the center, Bufong's mental energy spread out in all directions. Soon it covered the entire Valley of Gluttony. Hades Era, who was eating his spicy strip, was bewildered. Sensing Bufong's mental energy in the air, he almost choked to death on his spicy strip. This mental energy, Bufong young man's progress is really fast. His mental energy has almost reached the Demon King level. Hades Era exclaimed. Lord Go, who was lying under the Path Understanding tree, couldn't help but open his eyes, looking at Bufong in surprise. Apparently, Lord Go was also surprised by Bufong's power. With this look, Lord Go realized that Bufong's cultivation base had reached the divine spirit realm. Instantly, Lord Go took a deep breath, a little complicated. When he first met Bufong, this kid didn't even know what true energy was. And now, he had grown to this level? His speed was really fast. No wonder he was the kid who could get the resources of the Heaven Chief realm. But it's still not enough. You still have a long way to go. Bufong kid, work hard. Lord Ghost snorted, closing his eyes. He lay down, continuing to sleep. Bufong's mental energy swept out, quickly covering the entire valley of gluttony. The Holy Lord powerhouses and Demon Master powerhouses who were currently fighting felt their hearts tremble and their brows furrowed. They felt a mental energy that wasn't weaker than theirs covering them, which made them vigilant. However, in the next instant, their faces became strange. Saint Sovereigns of the Holy Lands, please pay attention. We'll be buying Demon King ingredients at a high price. Demon King ingredients can get a chance to spend 3 days in this restaurant for free. Moreover, they can get the chance to taste the dishes cooked by the Demon King ingredients first. This is a rare opportunity. Don't miss it. What? What did that mean? The Demon King experts who were fighting with the Saint Sovereigns were instantly bewildered. Those words made them slightly dumbfounded. Many of the Saint Sovereigns' faces became extremely strange. Buying Demon King ingredients at a high price. What was a Demon King ingredient? Many of the Saint Sovereigns were puzzled, subconsciously glancing at the Demon King experts who were fighting with them. Could it be that these experts were the Demon King ingredients that Honorbu had mentioned? It seemed like they really were ingredients. Gulp. A portion of Demon King ingredient could get them to spend 3 days in Honorbu's restaurant for free. Moreover, they could get the chance to taste Demon King level dishes first. Bufong's words were still echoing in their ears. Important things must be said 3 times. Bufong repeated his words 3 times. The Demon King experts were about to explode. They were the dignified Demon Kings of the ruined prison, supreme existences. They were actually being offered as ingredients in the hidden dragon continent. This was simply unforgivable. Who was the one who said those words? Come out. I promise I won't tear him into pieces. The Demon King experts were furious. However, they quickly realized that the Saint Sovereign's eyes had changed. They were looking at them as if they were looking at a treasure. This gaze caused the Demon Master experts to involuntarily shiver. Motherf asterisk cur. This lord isn't going to play with you anymore. You're all things that have taken drugs. The Demon Eagle Demon King roared. His figure instantly soared into the sky, turning into a giant demon eagle that covered the sun. Spreading his wings, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the horizon. The other Demon Kings also broke free and began to flee. They were really frightened by the eyes of these Saint Sovereigns. Today, these Saint Sovereigns had drunk wine, and their battle power was explosive. They might really fail miserably. The Demon Frog Demon King croaked. His feet stepped on the surface of the lake, and the sunset lake instantly exploded. His figure was about to soar into the sky. However, just as he jumped, his mind trembled. He turned his head to look, realizing that his frog leg had been grabbed by someone. The rising sun, Saint Sovereign's mouth was full of hot air. He was incomparably excited. Stay here, you big bullfrog. The rising sun, Saint Sovereign roared, the veins on his neck bulging. His saliva was about to drip down. With a boom, the Demon Frog Demon King was dragged down once again, smashing into the sunset lake. Croak, you human, you're courting death. This lord is a demon frog, not a big bullfrog. The Demon Frog Demon King popped his head out. The water dragons around him surged as he charged over. Suddenly, the demon frog's heart shook. His eyes turned, and he saw that in the distant horizon there were several black figures flying over. It was those Saint Sovereigns. They opened their mouths, and white gas spurted out. Their eyes stared at the demon frog. They were filled with greed and desire. The Demon Frog Demon King was so scared that he peed. His figure instantly swelled, turning into a giant demon frog that was like a small mountain. This transformation made the Saint Sovereign's eyes even more radiant. Facing these gazes, the Demon Frog Demon King's face was full of tears. Croak, this lord is a demon frog. I'm really not a big bullfrog. Chapter 9:20. The Demon Frog's Demon King was really a little anxious. He wanted to run, but it was as if the rising sun saint leader was glued to his thigh. Every time he used his strength to leap up from the surface of the lake, he would always be pulled down by the rising sun saint leader and smashed into the lake. Every time there was an explosion, there would be a huge wave that would soar into the sky. Using his mental energy to sense the saint's sovereign experts, whose auras were like the scorching sun, surrounding him, the Demon Frog's Demon King could only curse in his heart at this moment. His figure transformed into a huge toad the size of a small mountain. He opened his mouth and spat out a few spinning water bullets at the rising sun saint sovereign, wanting to blast the rising sun saint sovereign away. However, the rising sun saint sovereign's entire body was scarlet red, and his aura soared into the sky. White gas spurted out from his mouth as he punched out. It was like a scorching sun pressing down, completely evaporating the water bullets. After drinking a cup of Acheron helplessness wine, the rising sun saint sovereign's battle prowess rose to an extremely terrifying level. Streaks of starlight fell down like specks of starlight, enveloping the Demon Frog's Demon King that was the size of a small mountain. The starlight instantly became sharp and started to spin. It turned into a mysterious formation that bound the Demon Frog's Demon King. Heavenly secret technique, Starbind. A dignified voice rang out. Then, in the sky, a figure stepped on the stars as he came over. The Demon Frog's Demon King's eyes were about to tear up. It's over. This time, he really can't run away. Damn demon eyes, Demon King. Isn't this a trap? The Demon Frog's Demon King shouted nonstop. His body constantly emitted majestic nether energy, wanting to blast open that array. However, the rising sun saint sovereign suddenly soared into the sky, landed on his head, and sent a punch towards his head. This punch almost smashed the Demon Frog's Demon King's skull. Threads of silk fell down and spun up, binding up the Demon Frog's Demon King tightly. Only his head was left floating above the ground. A streak of sword light seemed to appear from the distant horizon. In an instant, it slashed down as though space was about to be torn apart. Tens of thousands of swords flew around the Dubhe Saint Master and crashed into the Sunset Lake, causing it to explode. The sword light turned into a net of sharp swords, making the Demon Frog Demon not dare to move. Many sacred sovereigns stepped into the air and stared at him with sharp eyes. At this moment, Demon Frog's Demon King felt really lonely. The other Demon Kings had all fled. That group of saint sovereigns, who looked as though they were on drugs, made them feel a sense of danger. This sense of danger made their pores open up. The look in his eyes was that of an ingredient. They were the saint sovereigns of the ruined prison. How could they become food for the creatures of the hidden dragon continent? This kind of thing was absolutely not allowed, so they temporarily ran away. As for the voice that announced that they were demon lord level ingredients, it made their teeth itch with hatred. How could there be such a crazy person in this world? He even dared to treat the demon master as an ingredient, whereas Demon Frog, didn't he run out? The demon eagle demon master and the other demon masters were slightly stunned. They looked at each other and realized that the Demon Frog Demon Master was missing. For a moment, the expressions of these demon masters became somewhat interesting. They looked at each other, looking at each other. Could it be that the Demon Frog's Demon King was really left behind? Could it be that the Demon Frog was really treated as an ingredient and cooked? With the Demon Frog's cultivation, he should be able to escape, right? Many Demon Kings opened their mouths and said to each other. However, in the end, everyone's face was filled with fear. Why don't we go back and take a look? A Demon King suggested, and this suggestion quickly received the agreement of all the other Demon Kings. Rip. The figures of the Demon Kings instantly turned into black shadows, tearing the sky, returning to the Valley of Gluttony once again. However, this time they did not go too deep. They just watched the battle from afar. From afar, they saw the Demon Frog's Demon King, who had gathered thousands of lights on his body. Ardent sun, true energy, thousands of sword lights, silk and silk strips, star array, seeing that every Saint Sovereign's skill had landed on the Demon Frog's Demon King. Many of the Demon Kings who were secretly watching instantly twitched the corners of their mouths. Luckily, we ran fast. This group of crazy ants, when they gather together, it's pretty scary. The Demon Kings all secretly rejoiced in their hearts. At the same time, they felt sorrowful for the Demon Frog's Demon King. The Demon Frog's Demon King was beaten up. He was forcefully pressed into the Sunset Lake and beaten up. The lake water exploded, just like the Demon Frog's Demon King's crumbling heart. The Saint Sovereigns floated in the air. An old man stepped on the air as he came over. The old man's body bloomed with extreme radiance, true energy like a dragon winding around him. Oh, this big bullfrog is really meaty. Rising Sun Saint Sovereign, it seems like your luck is not bad. The old man had a tuft of white hair on his head, fluttering in the wind. Looking at the Demon Frog's Demon King, who was subdued by many Saint Sovereigns, he said with a smile, "It's a pity that there's only this big bullfrog left. The other Demon Kings have all run away. Otherwise, we could eat Ownerboo until he's broke." The old man smiled evilly, rubbing the tuft of hair on his head as he said. Many of the Saint Sovereigns also felt that it was a pity. Although they had subdued this frog, this big bullfrog still belonged to the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign. After all, it was a Rising Sun Saint Sovereign who had been fighting this bullfrog. At this moment, the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign was so happy that he was going crazy. He sat on the Demon Frog's Demon King's head and laughed foolishly. Suddenly, many of the Saint Sovereigns seemed to feel something, turning their heads to look at a corner of the sky. There, the Demon King expert's hair stood on end, displaying their extreme speed as they fled in panic. This time, they didn't even turn their heads to look back. They would never come back. The Demon Frog's Demon King was finished. Tao Tai Restaurant, the restaurant's door was open. Bufong pulled a chair and sat in front of the restaurant. He curled up on the chair, squinting his eyes as he enjoyed the majestic wind blowing against him. He looked extremely satisfied. Hades Era and Chu Changsheng also copied Bufong, pulling over chairs and curling up on them. The battle seemed to have ended. The unceasing explosions from before had completely disappeared. Not long after, the ground shook. From afar, a giant object slowly walked toward the restaurant. Bufong and the others were startled awake. Bufong lazily opened his eyes, calmly looking at the giant bullfrog that was slowly moving toward him. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign lifted the hill-sized Demon Frog's Demon King as he walked toward the Tao Tai restaurant step by step. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign had terrifying strength. As he lifted the hill-sized Demon Frog, the muscles on his entire body bulged, crisscrossing like a horned dragon. His lines were clear, and he was filled with a valiant aura. Boom! In the end, the Demon Frog's Demon King was carried in front of the restaurant. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign panted heavily, his face filled with hope as he looked at Bufong. Ownerboo, this is the Demon Frog's Demon King that fought with this Saint Sovereign. Can it be considered a Demon King grade ingredient? The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign wiped the sweat on his forehead. With a leap, he landed on the Demon Frog's head. As he sat down, he stretched out his hand, patting the Demon Frog's head. Chu Changsheng gawked and dropped his jaw. What a big bullfrog! The corners of Hades Era's mouth twitched. He gloomily took out a spicy strip, putting it in his mouth. He clicked his tongue in wonder as he walked out of the restaurant. Bufong young man's methods were really useful. Who would have thought that these Saint Sovereigns could really deal with a ruined prison's Demon King? Looking at the huge demon frog that was covered in meat, Hades Era involuntarily swallowed his saliva. Demon King meat. He was really looking forward to it. Bufong also walked out. The Demon Frog's Demon King's face looked as if he had nothing left to live for. Being sized up like an ingredient made him feel a little depressed. He was the dignified ruined prison's Demon King. All right, it's a pretty good Demon King grade ingredient. I will keep my words. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign will receive 3 days of free consumption in the store. Moreover, you'll have the right to taste Demon King grade ingredients first. Bufong clasped his hands, walking in front of the demon frog's demon king. After carefully sizing him up, he opened his mouth to speak. Roar! You ant-like human! How dare you judge this lord's life? The demon frog's demon king was enraged to the point of insanity. Although he was tied up, he still let out a deafening roar at Bufong. Wild winds seemed to howl, sweeping across the entire place. Bufong's hair fluttered unceasingly in this roar, and his vermilion robe also fluttered. Bufong clasped his hands, expressionlessly looking at the demon frog's demon king. You're quite active. I wonder if the chili in the heaven and earth farmland has ripened yet. Otherwise, it would be pretty good to make a dried pot bullfrog. How about the pickled pepper bullfrog? Bufong did not care about the demon frog's demon king's roar. He just sized him up while muttering. Then, he was too lazy to say anything. Raising his hand, he patted the demon frog's demon king's thigh. A buzzing sound rang out. The demon frog's demon king's huge figure instantly disappeared. Everyone was a little surprised. They did not know where the demon frog's demon king, who was as big as a small mountain, was brought to. Sizzle. Heat spread. One by one, the Saint Sovereign sat on the ground, exhausted. The energy on their bodies had completely dispersed, and their cultivation had already returned to its previous state. Moreover, they were a little dizzy. The acheron of helplessness wine had a strong alcoholic effect. Each of them had a cup. After going berserk, they would definitely be dizzy for a while. Just nice. They could use this chance to enter Ownerbu's restaurant to eat something. After the great battle, their bodies were hollowed out. At this time, eating some delicious food was simply too wonderful. The Tao Tai restaurant's opening hours had not ended yet, so Bufong did not stop them from entering the restaurant. Then, after the Saint Sovereigns ordered the Holy Land disciples to repair the Valley of Gluttony, each of them reeked of alcohol as they drunkenly stepped into the Tao Tai restaurant. Once again, the restaurant began a busy day. Several hundred miles away from the Valley of Gluttony, the ruined prison's great army raised their heads, looking in the direction of the Valley of Gluttony. They were waiting for the Demon King's signal to attack the Valley of Gluttony. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no news. Suddenly, their pupils shrank because a black shadow was speeding over. Some of the experts were elated. Could this be the Demon King's message? However, very quickly, the faces of every ruined prison expert changed, because what floated over was not the previously agreed message, but a blood-colored eyeball. An eyeball. That's the Demon Eye's Demon King's Demon Eye. Some experts of the Demon Eye race recognized it and roared in shock. What? The Demon Eye's Demon Kings? I was even blasted by someone? In the next instant, air-rending sounds rang out. The ruined prison experts were all incomparably shocked. Raising their heads to look, they saw the incomparably powerful Demon Kings in their hearts, all flying back in panic. What exactly happened? Why were the Demon Kings so frightened and at a loss? Lord Demon Eagle's Demon King, why have you all returned? What happened to attacking the Valley of Gluttony? Some of the ruined prison experts asked in panic. The Demon Eagle's Demon King's hooked nose was almost crooked as he indifferently glanced at the expert who spoke. Attacking the Valley of Gluttony? Don't joke around. The Demon Eye's Demon King was already blasted. Let's go back to wash up and sleep. When the ruined prison experts heard this, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. And the Demon Frog race's experts seemed to have realized something was different, and their voices began to tremble. Lord Demon Kings, where's my race's Demon Frog's Demon King? Regarding the Demon Frog race's question, all the Demon Masters let out a sigh and looked at the Demon Frog clan's powerhouses, revealing a sympathetic gaze. The Demon Frog's Demon King ran slightly slower. His majestic and heroic appearance will forever live in our hearts. Chapter 9:21. Outside the hidden Dragon Royal Court, on a pitch-black, towering mountain peak. In the center of the mountain peak, there was a massive cave. A figure was sitting cross-legged inside the cave. That figure was huge, and his body was covered with dense demon marks. The demon marks twirled around him. making him look even more ferocious. That person was none other than the strongest demon king, who was cultivating in seclusion. After being sealed in the Bronze Palace for 10,000 years, the strongest demon king's cultivation had stagnated. Today, he needed to cultivate unceasingly to recover his body's functions. He needed to restore his cultivation to its peak state. Boom, rumble, boom. Inside the cave, thick nether energy twirled around. The thick nether energy seemed to materialize, covering the entire space. The strongest demon king sat there. Every time he breathed, thick energy gushed out from his mouth and nose, turning into a winding dragon. All of a sudden, the strongest demon king opened his eyes. His eyes were deep and profound, like the endless starry night sky, extremely dazzling. I told you not to provoke the valley of gluttony. You didn't listen. Seeking death? I haven't seen you for 10,000 years. It seems like my prestige isn't as it used to be. The strongest demon king gently exhaled a mouthful of black, turbid air. There seemed to be energy moving under his body. After saying that, he closed his eyes again, not bothering about it anymore. The ruined prison's experts attacked the valley of gluttony. The demon eyes demon king's demon eye was blown up, and the other demon kings fled pitifully. As for the demon frog clan's demon king, he could only stay in people's hearts. No one had expected such an outcome. The ruined prison's experts were shocked beyond words. However, the experts from the Holy Lands and the Valley of Gluttony felt a wave of encouragement. Everyone revealed an excited look. Their joyous mood filled the entire Valley of Gluttony. Of course, unlike the Valley of Gluttony's joy, the Taotai restaurant's business continued as usual. It was a busy day, just like before. The Saint Sovereigns, who were a little drunk from the Acheron of helplessness, hoped to eat the Demon King-level bullfrog. However, they were disappointed in the end. It was because Bufong did not choose to cook the bullfrog. According to Bufong, since it was a Demon King-level ingredient, he needed some time to brew it. Hence, the Saint Sovereigns felt very regretful. A day quickly passed amidst the many joyous emotions. He watched the last customer leave the restaurant. Chu Changsheng slumped on the chair, exhausted. Even he didn't understand why he should be so exhausted with his cultivation base. Why did he feel so weak every day after business ended? However, after Chu Changsheng had thought it through, he figured out. As a waiter, he had to help Bufong serve the dishes, and serving the dishes was the source of his exhaustion. That was because every time he brought out a dish, the aroma of the dish made him want to eat it. However, the waiter's professionalism prevented him from choosing to steal the food. It was very difficult to suppress one's desire for delicious food. Thus, Chu Changsheng understood that he wasn't tired physically, but mentally. After greeting Bufong, Chu Changsheng returned to his room, and Ayan finally moved out. After all, she was the heavenly secret saintess. Naturally, she couldn't stay in Bufong's room every day. If this spread out, it wouldn't be good for her. It was late at night. The restaurant's doors were tightly shut. Inside the restaurant, a dim light flickered. The dim light shone on the pitch-black shop, making it appear somewhat quiet and secluded. Everything in the store was so peaceful and peaceful. The leaves of the path understanding tree were rustling. It was because Hua had stirred the leaves. Lord Go was snoring under the tree. Hua was sitting cross-legged, cultivating. The Netherworld ship looked somewhat vicissitudes. The deck of the ship was covered with the marks of time. He was sitting on the deck, swinging her jade-like legs. Through the narrow slits of the restaurant's window, the moonlight shone. Tonight, the 2 crescent moons were half a silver plate. The 2 silver plates resonated in the void, creating some charm. The kitchen was brightly lit. The sound of splashing water rang out from within. Bufong shook the water off his hands, completing his night's cooking practice. After that, Bufong couldn't wait to enter the heaven and earth farmland. The sky in the farmland was very bright, showing a kind of azure blue. A few white clouds that looked like cotton candy slowly floated above. It gave people a sense of leisure. Bufong's figure entered, slowly landing on the ground. The current heaven and earth farmland had changed greatly. It was no longer as desolate as before. The farmland had been reclaimed, neatly divided into areas. Each area was filled by bufong. Some areas had already started a harvest. On the side of the river, Bufong had opened up several fields to plant rice. As a chef, rice was a very important ingredient. After the spirit farmland was opened up, seedlings were planted in the fields. These weren't ordinary seedlings. They were seedlings provided by the system after Bufong had finished reclaiming the land. Guanyin pearl tier rice. If this seedling was successfully planted, the rice it would grow would be Guanyin pearl tier rice, which is a very high-grade spirit rice. Compared to the dragon blood rice that Bufong had before, the Guanyin pearl tier rice was a grade better. Thus, Bufong was really looking forward to these two spirit fields. Neo Hansan now had another task, which is to take care of the spirit fields. However, although it was said to be taking care of them, it was actually no different from slacking off. He sat on the recliner, leisurely enjoying the wind. A gust of wind blew past, causing the seedlings in the paddy fields to tremble slightly. All of a sudden, Neo Han-san opened his eyes, because he could feel the ground shaking. Without a doubt, Bufong had entered the farmland. In the farmland, besides Bufong, no one else could cause such a commotion. 80 and Little Three ran out of the small wooden house, dumbfounded as they stared into the distance. There, a giant bullfrog the size of a small mountain was slowly pulled by Bufong. That bullfrog gave people a strong visual impact. It was like a small mountain. Of course, besides the hill-sized bullfrog, Bufong, who was pulling the bullfrog, also attracted their eyes. At this moment, Bufong was carrying a giant dragon bone kitchen knife. His vermilion robe fluttered in the wind, making him look extremely domineering. The demon frog's demon king was a little aggrieved. He didn't know what kind of place this was. His cultivation base was completely restrained, and he couldn't use the power of a demon king. Otherwise, he could slap this human chef to death with one slap. Neo Hansen looked at the giant bullfrog, almost scared to death. This bullfrog, oh no, this hill-sized demon frog, wasn't it the demon king of the demon frog clan? Could it be that even a demon king couldn't escape from Onerbu's kitchen knife? How terrifying was this human? The demon frog expert wanted to resist, but in this world he couldn't. Leaving the demon frog aside, Bufong stepped into the farmland. He went straight to an area where a kind of ruddy chili was planted. Exploding flame pepper, I hope you won't let me down. Bufong played with an exploding flame pepper, smiling faintly. Looking at the ripe, exploding flame peppers, Bufong couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. As soon as the exploding flame peppers were ripe, he would have a chance to deal with this giant Demon King-level bullfrog. After picking a basket of exploding flame peppers, Bufong began to deal with them. The ripe peppers in the farmland were all plump and ruddy. The demon frog's demon king looked at the peppers, his eyes filled with fear. No doubt, this human in front of him wanted to cook him. Boom, boom, boom. The demon frog's demon king turned around, wanting to jump away. He didn't want to die. As the demon king of the ruined prison, how could he become food for the humans of the hidden dragon continent? Absolutely not. After a while, the mountain-like demon frog's demon king disappeared. Neo Hansan shivered, looking at the disappearing demon frog's demon king in the distance. His heart shivered. He was scared out of his wits. In just a short time, Bufong had finished cutting the demon frog with a kitchen knife. That knife had left a heavy, psychological shadow in his heart. If he had chosen to resist, that knife would have slashed his body again and again. Bufong left, leaving Neo Hansan and the three-eyed wild lion in the farmland. Neo Hansan shivered. His lazy spirit was swept away, and he began to work hard to make the farmland full of vitality. Bufong returned to the restaurant. He poured the exploding flame peppers on the stove. These exploding flame peppers looked like they had flames burning in the middle, flickering between bright and dark. Cleaning the exploding flame peppers, he placed them on a plate. From a system-dimensional bag, he took out the demon frog meat that he had processed. This demon frog meat was worthy of being a demon king-grade ingredient. The meat was so smooth and tender, and with one cut, spirit energy seemed to diffuse. Taking out some demon frog meat, he placed it on a blue and white porcelain plate. Pouring some ice-hard jade urn wine into the bowl, he added thick oil and a few drops of abyssal chili sauce to marinate. This marinating process might take a while. The dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand. Bu Fong placed the peppers on the chopping board, cutting them into pieces. A wave of spicy aroma surged out, stimulating people's taste buds. The dish that Bu Fong wanted to cook this time was not that complicated. Taking out the black turtle constellation wok, he opened his mouth to spit out a dark gold heaven and earth obsidian flame. The heaven and earth obsidian flame drilled into the bottom of the wok, burning fiercely, making the wok warm. Pouring oil, the golden oil boiled in the hot black turtle constellation wok, splashing. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Pouring the marinated demon frog meat into the black turtle constellation wok. White steam surged up, and sizzling sounds echoed unceasingly. As soon as it entered the wok, the aroma burst out instantly. It was the aroma of the demon frog meat under the boiling hot oil. The demon frog meat, which was a little transparent, turned milky white at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bu Fong held the spatula in one hand and the black turtle constellation wok in the other, sniffing the aroma diffusing. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Shaking the wok and stir-frying, the demon frog meat began to roll in the wok. After fiddling with the demon frog meat for a while, Bu Fong fished out the demon frog meat, pouring it into a clean blue and white porcelain plate. Because of the surging hot air, the demon frog meat that was poured into the plate was slightly trembling. The milky white and transparent demon frog meat stimulated people's appetite. Reheating the wok, he added the purple garlic that Bu Fong had picked up from the heaven and earth farmland. Smashing the purple garlic, he put it into the wok and stir-fried it. After stir-frying a thick aroma, he added the chopped chili. The exploding flame pepper was as violent as its name. As soon as it entered the wok, it exploded. The energy was leaking, and the spiciness was boiling. Bu Fong didn't panic at all. He grabbed the black turtle constellation wok, stir-frying it. Waiting until the energy in the wok calmed down, and the color of the exploding flame pepper became more dazzling, he added the demon frog meat. Sizzle, sizzle. This time, when the demon frog meat entered the wok, it seemed to have a chemical reaction. The aroma bursting out was several times thicker than before. Compared to just stir-frying the demon frog meat in the wok, this stir-frying with the purple garlic and exploding flame pepper brought out the demon frog meat's aroma vividly. Boom, boom, boom. The flames in the black turtle constellation wok suddenly burst out. However, Bu Fong didn't care at all. He still shook the wok, stir-frying with the spatula. Finally, he poured in a little ice-heart jade urn wine and a little abyssal chili sauce. The flame was suppressed, and the aroma was almost boiling. Taking a round blue and white porcelain plate, he scooped out the stir-frying demon frog meat and poured it in. Finally, he poured the broth over it. The color was rosy and bright. The rosy demon frog meat slightly shivered, making people want to eat it. Bu Fong put down the spatula. He took a deep breath, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. Stir-frying demon frog done. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.